Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Afternoon Tune. I am your host, Josh, and I got some nice special guests with me today. I have Hunter from the Real Pineapple Podcast. How you doing there, Hunter?
Doing well, sir. How you doing?
Pretty good. Returning favorite always is Hunter. He's going to be coming in clutch today. Big, knowledgeable on comic lore, all things comics. So that'll be coming handy today. We're going to be doing a spoiler review for Thor Love and Thunder. We did our regular review yesterday. That whole pod that we did yesterday is now up on YouTube and now everywhere. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all those other places. So thank you, Hunter, for showing up. Also, we have a new guest here that has never been on the show before. Ashley. How you doing?
Woo!
For having me. It's great to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah. Ashley, tell a little bit people about yourself, about what you do.
By day, I'm basically a film and TV editor. Last 4 or 5 years, something like that. I've been editing the Lego Ninjago animated series, which
Okay.
I think has just started up its most recent season. You should check that out. It's a lot of fun. But other than that, I also tend to talk a lot about a lot of movie stuff on Twitter.
Hmm. Yeah, that's how I ended up meeting you and asked if you wanted to come on and talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said you were very interested in The Black Phone, which is the Scott Derrickson film, also written by C. Robert Cargill. So we're going to be reviewing that. We also, along with Thor Love and Thunder, and we're also going to be talking about Lightyear and the Elvis movie. I wanted to talk about Stranger Things, but I'll just wait till next week when I have my regular co-hosts with me there, like Nick and Dusk, because the second part of season 4 of Stranger Things came out this Friday. So I kind of wanted to get into that a little bit, but I'll do that just next week. And next, a first time guest as always, but a person who's always been a big person with this pod is our editor, Matt. How you doing there, Matt?
Hello, how are you? I'm doing great. Just came back from the beach over here, Independence Day here in Argentina, and yeah, doing great. Nice day today here. It's winter, but luckily we're not freezing here today, so we're good on that.
Yeah. Matt does. I lean on him a lot. Does he makes a lot of the clips for the show, everything like that we post on YouTube. So he's really great, really awesome guy, and really appreciate him for doing that for the show. And Matt, you also do editing for Adrian as well, right? We be watching films.
Yes, I also do some editing for maybe watching films. Also, I sometimes write and act in films here in
Oh,
like the indie community of Argentina. Not really, big stuff, but enjoying myself. Moved to the capital city not so long ago. Trying to get more in films.
oh,
Hopefully.
awesome! I didn't know that. I didn't know you act in films and everything like that. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, besides from my normal office job, I try to make my way in film.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very nice. Yeah. All the stuff you tell me about your life, I think you definitely have a lot of interesting stories. Would make for good films and TV shows. That's for sure. Yeah. So a lot of stuff kind of goes on there with you, but yeah, man. I mean, I'm glad you were able to make it. You're coming in with the Minions review. And do you have those pictures, by the way? You all dressed up for Minions?
Yeah, yeah. Give me a second. I'm gonna send them over. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the joke went too far. Um,
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna be getting into that while you're discussing Minions. Hunter saw it. He's the only other person that saw it here.
Yeah, lucky me.
Yeah, so he's gonna be kind of getting into that with you, the Minions review. Yeah, but yeah, send those
all
pics
I gotta
over.
say is cinema is back, guys. Cinema is back.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But yeah, send those pics over to me, and I'll show them on the stream while you're talking about Minions. There, I'll show them. All right, Hunter. By the way, I forgot about. You want to talk about a little bit about your podcast, about where you at, what you're doing right now.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, yeah, Real Pineapple. You can check us out on all the socials. We are going to be reviewing Miss Marvel coming up this week. Got a review of Thor Love and Thunder coming up tomorrow.
Mm.
God, what else? Gonna have a full Comic-Con breakdown in a couple weeks because Comic-Cons. Remember when it used to be about comics? Does anyone remember that? That used to be a
I don't think
thing.
I'm old enough to remember when it used to be about comics.
Okay, I'm dating myself then because I remember it used to be like comic panels, and there were like a few TV shows or whatever. Now it's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's comics still here, but
Yeah.
we'll have a full breakdown on that, and got a review for Nope coming up as well.
Ah,
Yeah, so yeah, got some stuff coming down the pipeline.
nice, nice. I'm excited to see Nope. That comes out in a couple weeks. I'm excited to see that, the new Jordan Peele film.
Same.
Peele film. Starring Daniel Kaluuya, Kiki Palmer. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All right, let's get into it. We're going to be getting into Thor: Love and Thunder. So, Thor: Love and Thunder, like I said, is the fourth film in the Thor franchise. We're going to be doing a nice spoiler review for it. Again, Taika Waititi is back. He directed Thor: Ragnarok, and back again as Chris Hemsworth as the titular character Thor, and some returning people, returning people you haven't seen in a while, like Natalie Portman, who's coming back as the character of Jane Foster. Jane Foster, who we last saw in Thor 2, Thor: The Dark World, which. A lot of people now going like, maybe Thor: The Dark World was not so bad after seeing this Love and Thunder. As I can see, some people going like, yeah, there was kind of a lot of great things about that movie. I'm kind of going to be getting into a little bit of discussion about Phase 4, this newest Thor movie. How's it really stack up against the other Thor movies? You know, is the worst, is the best, is it in the middle somewhere? So we're kind of going to be getting all into that. So here, we're going to really, like I said, it's a spoiler review, going to really let loose with all the details in the movie. So if you have not seen the movie, we are doing a spoiler review for it. Come back in probably like 30 minutes, or so. We're probably going to be done. But yeah, like I said, we're going to delve into all the things, including the two post-credit scenes of this movie and all the details of it. So in this movie, you have the villain of the film, who's played by Christian Bale, Gore the God Butcher. Gore the God Butcher, who is from the comics, whose whole mission is to kill the gods after being pretty much betrayed by them, pretty much spit on by them. Decides to be set on a mission to kill all the gods with the Necro Sword, as it is. Which is a shame they couldn't really include a lot of the stuff that the sword is a symbiote, because obviously Sony owns that with the Venom stuff, but that was kind of a little disappointing. But you have that here. And he comes in to intersect with Thor, and Thor must stop Gore from killing all these other gods and from reaching the point of eternity, is what they call it. That's what that's center of the
Yeah.
universe, where he can wish for all the gods to be dead. Yeah, so with this film, I gave my thoughts on it yesterday in non-spoiler review, which you all can watch in the full pod that's up right now on YouTube. But my initial thoughts on it was, I don't think it's better than Ragnarok, but I think that it's somewhere, still think it's the second best of these Thor movies. Thor as a character, I know there's been some talk about ever since Ragnarok onward that people have not liked that character change. Me personally, I've liked, Thor Ragnarok was a film that I loved. I think it's one of the few great MCU movies there is. And I think I like the direction of the character change that Thor has had. I know some people really don't. And I think that I can see some people's points with this, where with Love and Thunder, that, yeah, there was a lot of jokes in here. Some didn't really work all that well. But Taika Waititi, it seems like it was a lot of rapid fire kind of going on. It felt like it was his character from Free Guy directing Thor: Love and Thunder, and not Taika Waititi that we saw from What We Do in the Shadows or Hunt for the Wilder People directing, like how he did in Ragnarok. But I did like the look of the movie. I did like the chemistry between Jane and between Thor. I thought that was really great. But I wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts on the film. Hunter.
Yeah, so I since I started my podcast, I've reviewed every Marvel film. Um, the median for me is usually about between like a B and a B plus. I think Marvel rarely misses. Um, I had nerds come after my black ass because I gave Ragnarok a B, and people came out with their torches like, "How fucking dare you?" And I was like,
Mm.
I liked it. I don't love it. I'm sorry. And I've gone back and watched it like 2 or 3 times, and I don't know. I think the big thing for me is that for Ragnarok being the end of Asgard, I did think the film was too jokey for me at least. I thought it should have been a little more serious with Asgard ending. So yeah, so that was just kind of like my hang up with it. So heading into this, I was really curious because I'm such a fan of Taika, what we do in the shadows, of course. Jojo Rabbit, I think, is one of the best movies in the last decade. I
Wow.
fucking love I love Jojo
Oh,
Rabbit,
okay.
and so I was really curious going into this, and goddamn, this movie just really works for me. I had
Really?
so much fun. I had so much fun with this movie. It's not perfect. There are some jokes that I did kind of just go like, all right, like that one didn't hit for me. But I can count on one hand how many jokes there were that missed for me. Uh, People going like this is worse than a dark world, or you're just wrong. You're so genuinely wrong. Like I don't like it's kind of ridiculous how wrong you are. They draw a lot from Jason Aaron's 2013 Thor run here, especially with Gore and with Jane Foster and Natalie Portman. First off, brava for getting to ridiculous shape to play the mighty Thor. Natalie Portman, I mean, she always looks amazing, but she really put in the work with the action scenes and everything. I think the way that she uses Mjolnir, especially, makes her feel very, very credible to wield the hammer. And so many of her character beats, especially with the whole cancer diagnosis, which is from the comic. Um, they do a really good job. Portman does a really good job of relaying that sense of like a ticking clock of oh shit, how much time do I have left? And one thing that the Dark World really does struggle with is their relationship. Like that was probably my biggest, just like, you guys just are not getting this. And Korg is a really good narrator here, but they do a really good job of showing just through flashbacks leading up to present how, Thor's an Avenger, Jane is, a very in-demand scientist, and so like their schedules just, I mean, people just grow apart. Sometimes it happens, and so when they actually break up and everything, and then come back together, it's really cool to see because Thor's experienced so much loss. He's lost Asgard, he's lost Loki, he's lost his dad. The Avengers aren't a thing right
Yeah.
now, and so seeing Thor kind of have that realization of wow, this was one of the few wonderful stable things in my life, and it just didn't work out. And having that chance to rekindle that, I think it's inspired. I think Hemsworth does a great job of this being goofy when he needs to be goofy, but being serious when he needs to be serious. Christian Bale, goddamn, the whole Gore arc just works so well for me. There is this one shot of him when he kidnaps the kids, where he comes through the cage, like pops up through the back, and that shit scared my ass so bad. I was like, "Oh shit, okay." Like, there's a couple actual very intense uh, moments with Bale's gore that really worked for me. But I've got a lot more to say, but I'll pass off to someone else. But I really enjoyed it.
Ashley.
I think you nailed it earlier when you're saying that that you like this iteration of Thor more than the previous versions because I really have never been interested in the character of Thor. I've always found him an incredibly boring character, and especially in the first two movies, it's like I can take or leave those ones honestly. That when you treat him as a serious character, and it was only until Taika picked him up in Ragnarok and made him a comedic character that I actually started to care because it leans on all of Chris Hemsworth's best strength as an actor because he's an incredibly funny guy,
Yeah.
and he walks that line between action hero and comedian such a plum that it should almost be criminal how well does it and how well he balances the two. And I honestly, I think Ragnarok nailed it. And this is a continuation of it. And I like this version of Thor. He, Taika made me actually give a crap about Thor for the first time. And this movie was no different. I think you're right. I think it's probably not better than Ragnarok, but it's damn close in my opinion. And I just pound for pound, I just had a blast watching the movie from beginning to end. Like the movie's like what, 2 hours long, a little over two
Two
hours long,
hours. Yeah.
and it felt like it was 40 minutes by the time I got to the end of it. The whole thing was just this freight train that moved along, and I was never not entertained. There was absolutely not a single lull moment in the film, and there's so many goddamn jokes in this movie, and honestly, they all worked for me for the most part. And I've seen people complain about, you know, the goats, how it's this one joke that gets used
So
over
good.
and over and over
So
again.
good.
The goat never got old for me.
Same.
Every single time I laughed at the goats. It should have been grating at a certain point, but it never stopped being funny for me. And that's kind of what this movie is. It probably feels more like an inconsequential film, even though there are some genuine emotional beats, um, especially with Jane's story in this film. But it plays much more like a fun, breezy, entertaining romp of a film, and I just absolutely loved it. I adored this film. The people who are hating on this film and calling it the period worst period movie ever period, I have no idea what movie these people are watching. Like, I don't want to say, that they're wrong or they're bad or anything like that, because it's like, whatever, different opinions. If it didn't work for you, I'm sorry it didn't work for you. I wish you saw the movie that I saw, but I honestly don't know what movie they were watching, because I thought this movie was just like, uh, it was probably the most fun Marvel movie that I've seen yet.
Hmm. Interesting. Matt, did you see it by any chance?
No, I didn't get to see it yet. Released here on Thursday, but I spent the weekend at the beach, so
Oh, okay.
didn't
Uh,
have time for it. Yeah.
so I guess, yeah, if you want to mute us, if we're talking about spoilers, I guess you could do that. I'm gonna have you up next after we do this. You and Hunter do minions for that. I'm gonna have you up next. Yeah. So with this movie, yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm as high on it as you two are. I mean, call it one of the most entertaining kind of Marvel movies. Yeah, I'm definitely not as high as that on this film. There's some moments, yeah, I think that really didn't work, and there's some moments that I think that really did. I think it's kind of somewhat a little bit of a mixed bag there. The screaming goat stuff, I think it was funny the first couple of times. You know what I mean? I think they kind of run it into the ground a little bit.
I don't begrudge anyone who felt like that joke wore itself out.
Yeah,
That's the one joke I'll go like, yeah, fair enough, but I giggled each time.
yeah. So I thought that was a little kind of one note. I did like the humor involving, kind of this four way between Thor and Jane and Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. I enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty good. You know what I mean? Just the relationship between all four of them. And like I said, I enjoyed that they actually made me care about the Thor and Jane relationship, something I didn't before in the previous movies. Here, I think it's given more context to the relationship, and I think it really makes you care about the two of them. And then I think this is the best chemistry they've ever had in any of the other movies before, which I thought was another great thing. And to see kind of I think some other returning characters like Valkyrie. Tessa Thompson's always great as Valkyrie. I think
Yeah.
she has so much fun in that role. That was much appreciated. And then Waititi to come back as Korg. I like Korg. I think Korg's a decent addition to these movies. The Guardian stuff, I mean, they were only in the movie for the first 10 minutes, of the film. I think you could have done some better stuff with him in the Guardians, than what they did. Is Thor supposed to be in the next Guardians movie too, or no?
No, so apparently
I'm
it's just
guessing not.
Guardians. Yeah, because they're introducing Adam Warlock, so that's gonna be the big arc
Th-
for that moment.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is basically like this is where we continue off from what was it, Endgame, where they all like
Yeah.
We
Yes.
go
Yeah.
off together. Thor's going with them on whatever adventures, and by the time we get to the end of Thor, uh, Love and Thunder, it's like Thor's like left the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm guessing by the time we get to Guardians 3, Thor's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I just thought you could have done better stuff with them. I thought, the movie, coming in at 2 hours, it did feel like, yeah, I mean, it was like, oh, I think that time went by pretty fast. But there's a lot of this movie that does feel like it's cut. Like, I think there could have been a lot more gore stuff. I think there could have been more stuff with Christian Bale as a character. I did really like him, but it just felt like he wasn't in the movie nearly enough. I actually wanted to see him kill more gods because you only really get to see him kill one god throughout the entire movie. The rest is just shown on screens or the aftermath of it. To see Jamie Alexander come back as Lady Sif, I liked Jamie Alexander. I liked her as Lady Sif. I mean, I guess she was the only person that people even remembered who the other team of his members were. What they call the Warriors 3 plus Sif, right?
Yeah, so yeah, they got done dirty in Ragnarok. That was one of my bigger complaints. I was like, God damn, they were just like they were nothing.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, but yes,
I mean,
but
they
Sif
got
got
done
some.
dirty, but how many people can even remember their names?
yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So in this, and then he continues to do them dirty, Taika Waititi, where he says, "Oh, that guy," and then that guy, when he's mentioning all the bad stuff that what I
Yeah,
mean,
that
it's ever
was.
happened to him. He continues to kind of disrespect them there. But yeah, so she's back, and she's in a very comic accurate costume when you see her.
Yep.
Which was nice. And the only reason I don't think her character got killed in that mass extinction of all the other kind of Asgardians is because she was filming Blind Spot at the time Ragnarok was going on, so she couldn't be there.
Yes, but they confirmed she actually was a victim of the snap
Okay,
too. So
yeah,
yes.
so that's the reason why she probably wasn't there for that. Yeah, and she's on the movie for a little bit. I think a lot of the stuff is kind of super fast paced and kind of, what I mean. It feels like so much stuff was kind of cut out, and maybe they said there's like a 4 hour cut of this movie. And then Taika Waititi even said he doesn't want to see that cut released. He said that a lot of it just didn't work. You know what I mean? It was kind of a lot of rapid fire kind of stuff. When they go to the city, what was the name of the city with all the gods?
Omnipotent,
I,
omnipotent city. Jesus
yeah,
Christ. There we go.
yeah. I had you say that. I was like, what was the name of that city again? Because I wanted you to say it. I didn't want to fuck it up like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, fair enough.
but yeah, I thought Russell Crowe's Zeus. What were your thoughts on Russell Crowe's Zeus?
You want to go, Ashley?
Sure. I mean, I thought he was fine. He was fun. It was just kind of like a one note. What are they going for? Okay, we have a bunch of petulant gods. They're basically hiding out and pretending that they're king shit of the universe, but not afraid to actually really do anything. And I thought Russell Crowe filled that role fine. It almost seemed like he was almost playing like a parody of like the machoism of some of his earlier roles, like Gladiator and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I thought he was a lot of fun in the role, even though he isn't a very big part of the movie.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
Question for
Oh,
either of you: like, have you ever heard Zeus with a Greek accent before?
I mean, in the old like Clash of the Titans and whatnot. But
yeah.
even then, if I recall, it was like more of like a British accent
Yeah.
whenever they did it.
I think I've seen it. I think I've seen Zeus more with that accent in plays than I've seen in like actual media.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
And in like the more recent Clash of the Titan movies, wasn't it? It was Liam Neeson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he
So
did
we have like
wasn't doing
heavy
it.
Irish accent.
Yeah. Yeah, Zeus following
Release
black.
the Kraken.
Yes, Zeus following black people home from bars. But but yeah, Zeus. So the thing that I'm loving about Phase Four, and I know people are just like, Phase Four is the worst, which we've been spoiled. But Phase Four feels like it's being written by an atheist, and I find that incredibly hilarious because every movie is just more of a dig at like the concept of God in general. Because Thor talks about how Zeus is like his hero and like inspired a lot of his powers and his moves and all that, and Zeus just tears that shit down so quickly to reveal, yeah, I'm a total piece of shit. And you're like, God, that took like 5 minutes. Fuck. Okay. And
Mm.
it's done in like a kind of a haha way, but it's actually pretty tragic when Thor's just like, God damn, dude, I look goddamn. I looked up to you, motherfucker. Like, why are you, why are you so fucking afraid? And that's one reason why the gore stuff works for me so well, is because um if you're familiar with Bible kids, the story of Job in the Old Testament, where God basically tells Satan like, oh, I can take everything away from this guy and he'll still worship me, and it's very it's similar in ways to this, because Gore really does lose everything, and he praises God, and the God's just like, oh, you're a stupid human, and like fucking spits on him and goes like, you're not shit, and Gore just goes, oh, hey, sword, and kills this God. And the thing is, when he's like going off on these monologues about how the gods failed him, it's like, as the audience member, I'm like, he's not wrong though.
Yeah.
Like, he's 1,000% correct. And
He's a
Thor,
sympathetic villain.
yeah, and so when Thor has that realization that the gods are just okay, even Zeus even says Asgardian problems are Asgardian problems, which you just go, eek. Like, it plays so ugly in the context, but that's the intent, of that. And so, to Ashley's point about Russell Crowe, we've hit that perfect blend of like Mummy Russell Crowe and Unhinged, like, slash the Nice Guys Russell Crowe, where he's like bigger but he's not fat. Like, he's like like he's
Yeah.
just in shape enough to play Zeus, but also not, fucking ripped. And it's so wonderful. Like, when he's talking to Thor and just like, yeah, have some grapes, have some wine. And you're just like, man, you have a fucking thunderbolt, and you're just like, I'm just gonna chill and do nothing. And that scene, of course, has the whole to quote Taika, you get the full Hemsworth, you get
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth butt, which I saw on an IMAX screen, and oh my god, what a like my theater damn near gave it a standing ovation. Like, I was like, Jesus Christ, which, hey, enjoy. But yeah, that whole scene is a lot of fun. I will say, I kind of wish Gore would have shown up there, and that's one of my few gripes with the movie. I wish he would have shown up there and killed a couple gods, because I felt like that was a perfect place to have him kind of
Yeah.
kind of go on a rampage. Um, but to see Thor's kind of that pedestal that he had the gods on torn down still works for me. But um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was going to happen in that moment, actually, when he was there. And I was kind of surprised they show full ass. It's the full moon that happens. And they also mentioned orgies twice in an MCU movie. They
yeah.
also mentioned that. Um,
He
yeah.
also swore a lot in the movie. He said shitty quite a few times in the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh, okay. I kind of missed that. Yeah. But you kind of see that happen in this film. Um, some of the negatives I had with, like I said, the humor, but also I think some of the VFX stuff in it is not. Yeah, I think the look of the movie overall looks good. Like, I like all the when they go to the city with all the gods. I think that looks very good. I think Thor and all his different costumes look good. You know, it's another issue I kind of have sometimes with this, not only in this movie but in superhero movies in general, is the stuff with the mask of how it kind of just digitally gets removed or something like that. Like it's nanotechnology or something instead of actual like a physical looking helmet that somebody puts on and off. It's just like it's like when Black Panther was in Civil War. It's like I like that it looked more like a physical costume and he took the helmet off, and that just looked better than what in his own movie we had like the beads that just kind of came all over him. I don't know. It's just a personal thing with
Oh,
me.
give me
I
the beads,
agree with
baby.
you like 99%, but it's also kind of like a practicality thing. And ultimately, you want to be able to see the actor's face, but you also want to like not just like do Stallone Judge Dredd, where we just jettison the helmet entirely.
Hey,
And
Carl Urban, Judge Red.
yeah, exactly. But it's I just kind of accept it as just like, okay, well, this is kind of what we have to do because we're making a movie and we want to see actors' faces. But at the same time, we still want to have this headgear, so we got to do the nanotechnology thing. And I sort of agree. I think it's a little bit of a lame cop out. I don't love it. I just kind of tolerate it.
You get what you're saying though. Like it doesn't bug me, but like to Ashley's point, the practicality of like Wakandan tech in general, there's no fucking way you could like
Yeah.
build something to be like that. But I do get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like if they kept having you take on the masks or take on helmets and do that constantly, they would probably just find an excuse, like in a horror movie, to lose people's cell phones. They would find an excuse to lose people's helmets or masks somewhere in the story.
Fair.
Yeah. What were kind of you guys' thoughts on the VFX? Because I think, how do you know how many MCU projects there have been this year that they're
Oh Christ. 30. No.
Well, I mean,
Like,
this is the second theatrical, but then
yes.
you have what, like two Disney Plus
Mo-
series?
yeah, Moon Knight was this year, and then we've got Miss Marvel
Yeah.
going
Miss
on right
Marvel,
now. So that's four.
and then She-Hulk is
Uh,
coming, Black Panther 2
yeah,
is coming.
She-Hulk is
Yeah.
August, Black Panther is November. I think that's it for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Do you think it's just too many projects and that's forcing like the VFX team to kind of rush? Because I was looking on, I saw something where somebody was also saying like they were working on the VFX. I don't know if it's completely true or not, but it was like a Reddit post where somebody was like, yeah, it's like they want these kind of things out so fast that we can't meet that demand. And a lot of VFX people, it seems like they're overworked and underpaid for kind of what they're doing. And that's why you kind of see a little of this stuff that kind of looks shoddy a lot of the times. Because I thought there were moments in this movie, like with the goats and everything, that didn't look really all that good. What kind of your thoughts on?
Yes and no, but it's not a Marvel problem. It's an industry-wide problem.
Yeah.
Because every movie at this point that goes out theatrically more or less has pretty substantial visual effects in it. Like the amount of visual effects that were in films 20 years ago as opposed to today is a ridiculous jump. Every shot in these movies is a visual effects shot. And these all go out to, even though Marvel has like partners for VFX vendors that they work with, they have like a slew of companies that they work with, like Lola and Third Floor and Method and a bunch of other VFX houses that they spread this across that they regularly use. Every other film from every other studio is also accessing those vendors and more. And there's just a limit of like good VFX at this point. It's just an equation of time plus money, essentially, and there's
Yeah.
just not enough time to produce all of the shots that are required for the VFX artists that are in the industry. There's a real kind of limitation, and it's the other unfortunate side of this is a lot of this gets pawned off on VFX because VFX at this point is a non-union industry, whereas the rest of the film industry is union. So it becomes really easy to kind of force this onto VFX houses where that becomes the cheaper solution to films as opposed to fulfilling it in some other way. I really hope that changes in the near future, that there is a reckoning in VFX houses do unionize, and it's going to be a massive change for the industry, but a very necessary change.
Did you have any issues, any shots in this movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, that you had any issues with that you thought, "Ooh, that looks really, really rough"?
I mean, I thought it was fine. I don't tend to pick out that stuff too much because it doesn't bug me whenever I see like VFX shot that maybe looks a little wonky or whatnot. I just go with it. It's not something that sticks out to me as all that problematic or whatever. It's I don't know. It's low on my priority list.
Hunter?
Fair. Yeah. For me, the visual effects I thought looked basically the way I put it to my friend is if you put Skittles and cotton candy in a blender, that's basically what this movie is. But then on occasion, the movie will go, so I think the Shadow Realm stuff is some of my favorite MCU stuff because that's just a great excuse for Taika to go, oh, we're shooting in black and white for about 10 minutes. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And there's this great shot of Gore, holding the sword, just telling Thor like get over here, motherfucker. I'm like, oh, this is like seeing that big. I was just like, yep, I love this. This is what I wanted. So there's a couple. My favorite or one of my favorite shots in the MCU is that shot in Endgame where Captain America looks out and he sees Thanos and his army coming closer, and it's just him on that hill by himself. I absolutely adore that shot. And there is this shot of Gore looking down on New Asgard at night before he's about to invade with his Kingdom Hearts creatures, and and uh, and and that shot in particular is one of my favorite shots in the MCU. So there wasn't anything that really jumped out as far as like I was where I went, that looks a little rough. Because there are times I'll notice on occasion where a movie will like have a frame. I'm like, all right, that was a little like, all right, that needed another render. But nothing like that that really stood out for me. The use of powers, especially with Jane, I really liked how it did feel different from Thor as far as like the acrobatic aspect of her using Mjolnir in different ways. So, yeah, the visual effects really did actually work for me.
Yeah. Um, with the when it comes to the story of this movie, like you mentioned, Hunter, this is combining the Gore story and the Mighty Thor story. Both were written by Jason Aaron, who had two really great runs, a couple great runs on
Yes,
the
it did.
Thor
Yeah.
comics. With this, I felt like because I know Ragnarok kind of they did the same thing when they combined the Planet Hulk stuff and in the Ragnarok storyline. I felt like with this movie, it should have been either the Gore stuff or the Mighty Thor. I don't think those two things meshed kind of well, and I think it just to me wasn't as seamless as it was in Ragnarok. They try to make a connection here with like Jane, who, if you've read the comics, the whole thing about her becoming Mighty Thor is that she's dying of cancer, but the only time where she's fully healthy is when she picks up and wields the power of Thor when she's holding Mjolnir. But it's also catch 22 because she gets sicker as she's when she is the Mighty Thor. It just felt like they try to connect that with Gore the God Butcher because he's also dying from picking up this weapon as well. Did you feel them doing both these stories was seamless? Did you feel it was
Uh,
good, or you think it was just too much?
so for me, it definitely works because I think they draw a great parallel between Gore, just being a good person, still having shit taken away from him, and Jane when they talk about the fact of like how much stuff her research has gone ahead and just brought up as far as um, just like looking out into like the different realms and all that. Like she's been an incredibly important figure you know in science, and the fact that she gets cancer just feels like this completely unfair hand that she's dealt in the way that her and Gore, there's this point where Gore has all three of them tied up, and he kind of has that truth bomb moment where he's like, like you didn't do shit, and this is still happening to you, like that's where I'm at. You shouldn't be fighting me. You should be applauding me. And again, it's that, oh, he's not wrong. Fuck, that's really dark. And Portman sells that so incredibly well. Also, I love the whole uh, fact that he calls her Lady Thor because that's what a bunch of assholes were doing when Jane got the mantle, and they're like, "A girl can't be Thor." That bullshit. And of course, it's maybe the best run of Thor or one of the best runs of Thor they've done. And so her actually correcting him on that, I thought was a nice, fuck you to the people who are just hating on, a girl can't have a hammer, like, that bullshit. So I think the stories actually mesh really well, especially at the end where Gore has the chance to, just go, yep, kill all the gods. But, he chooses love. And that was in the way that was actually done. Uh, I really did enjoy. So yeah, for me, the stories do mesh well. I will say I would have liked another like I could have done with this being like another 20 minutes longer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Ashley.
Yeah, I agree. They're connected really well. There's an interesting piece that I read that talked about how you basically have Gore's origin story here, where, as you said earlier, he's basically he's his daughter has just died, and he meets his god, and it's like, we're dying. We've been worshiping you. We need salvation. We need your help, and his god doesn't care
at all.
completely ambivalent to the plight, and it's just like, yeah, you're supposed to worship me and then die miserable suffering lives. That's your whole purpose here. Now get away, I'm eating grapes. And that's what starts him on his whole quest to, kill all gods. But on the opposite end of that, you have Jane, who has now got this stage 4 cancer that she's staring down the barrel of. And what happens? But the gods, essentially, Mjolnir calls to her and provides her own path to some form of salvation. Even though, much like Gore's, it is double edged, and it's essentially going to rob her at the behest of what it wants as opposed to what she wants. But they essentially exist as two different kind of polar opposites of the same theological argument in the film. So it ends up creating like a perfect balance in the film, and I don't think if you did one or the other, that it would be near, at least in the story that they're telling here, it you'd have half a story, and I think it really creates a full story in this film.
Okay. Yeah. When it comes to like other aspects of the film, I dug the soundtrack. How they had Zeppelin in the last one. They hear with more '80s hard rock, where they do Guns N' Roses. I think it's a little too much because you even have a character in this who's Heimdall's son, who is now Axel. He goes by Axel. I think that was a little. I think that was a little too much.
So okay, I love that because I thought that they did Heimdall pretty dirty, and it really felt like Taika went, okay, how can we like Brian O'Connor this but not be offensive? And
Well,
basically they go like,
it's
go ahead.
it's funny you bring that up of doing Heimdall dirty because this is spoiled. Like I said, we're gonna spoil the mid credit scene. So the last post credit scene here that you have, which a trend now with these movies is they'll do two and they'll do one mid credits one that's important to set up stuff later, and then they'll do another one that's kind of like a little light-hearted, little kind of joke one. And then the last one of this is so Jane dies and she goes to Valhalla, and so is Heimdall? Is he like still a doorman? Is he still like a doorman or what? I mean, because even in
So,
heaven, he's still a
uh,
doorman.
He's just in Valhalla. He's just like
yeah,
he's a
Okay.
familiar face.
yeah. So
It's like, what other familiar face would there be that's in Valhalla that Jane would recognize?
yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
the thing that's actually important about that is that both scenes are actually important because um, Jane ends up becoming a Valkyrie in the comics. So
Ah. Okay.
it like so it feels like they're very much like we want to keep Natalie Portman on board because she's already talked about the fact that she wants to come back for the next one, and so that's a very nice way to keep her around. She doesn't have to get into insane shape, but if they want to go and make her Valkyrie, that lane is right there, and I feel like that's exactly where we're heading with her, which is awesome
Yeah.
because that's a really fun comic arc. As far as Heimdall's kid, that's not a thing in the comics, so I was actually kind of like, oh, that's new. Okay, um, I hope they treat that kid again better than they treat Heimdall because that was a gripe of mine. But the fact that the fact that they had kids in this and the kids weren't just there to be saved, the fact the kids actually got in on like the action, very very Shazam in that way.
Yeah.
I yeah, like I definitely was like Tycho was like, oh Shazam, like like it definitely came across like that. But the fact though that not only do the kids able to actually help, and not just be in distress, but you also have another way now to build up Asgard by having new warriors that Sif and Valkyrie can train. So it actually works double as far as moving forward for Thor 5. So I actually thought that was really cleverly done, and it was actually cool to see Thor um, kind of in this mentor role throughout the film, like trying to just kind of keep the kids calm, be like, okay,
Yeah.
I got this, and the surprisingly simple reason for why Gore kidnaps the kids, I was like, oh yeah, you would need Stormbreaker, wouldn't you? Like it was something I just didn't even like honestly occur to me until we got about halfway through and I went, oh, this is why you okay, okay, that makes sense. Like it's
Yeah.
simple, but it worked really well for me. Plus, having a girl use a bunny rabbit to destroy shadow creatures while November Rain is playing, I just went, "Yep, this is like I know some people won't like this, but I don't fucking care." Like I thought that was so much fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, I actually think Axel again, little wink, wink, but yeah, I actually like the fact that they pulled that thread.
Uh,
The entire movie was like brought to you by Guns N' Roses. And while I did like it, it did feel a little bit overkill. Like in Ragnarok, we had the one song, and when it drops, it's just like, oh my god, this is killer. And then in this movie, it's like, and now time for your fifth Guns N' Roses song, and it's like,
yeah.
So
that
so
felt a bit like beating a dead horse.
so for me, I kind of I read it kind of like I do where I read role models, where like I don't like Kiss in any way, shape, or form. I think Kiss is like maybe the most horse band of all time. Like Kiss Caskets, give me a fucking break. But whenever I watch role models, I'm like, man, Kiss kind of works for me. And then I listen to it outside of role models. I'm like, oh no, this I don't like this. But uh, I'm more of a fan of Roses than Kiss, so it didn't bug me. But if there are people who say that, I kind of get it, but it didn't take away from it.
I think I'm more where rather like it's obviously like especially by the time you get to the end credits and you see the credit treatment, it's like the aesthetic that they're going for is painfully obvious. You know where they're going for that like
Saturday
classic
morning
like
cartoon He-Man.
early '90s like power rock sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and if they're, I have no problem with the Guns N' Roses, but if that's the aesthetic that you're like the tone you're gonna go for, mix it up with some different groups from that era. It doesn't all
Yeah.
just have to be like a greatest hits of Guns N' Roses thing. But it felt a little bit like what they were doing with early Iron Man, where everything was just like his brand is ACDC. That's it, nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kid stuff. I think them getting powers at the end, where Thor bestows them with the powers of Thor momentarily. He makes sure to
Yeah,
specifies
exactly.
that.
Momentarily.
It felt like something kind of out of We Can Be Heroes, which was that Netflix movie with Robert Rodriguez. I felt like it just kind of had that feel to it a little bit. And when they were kind of fighting the shadow creatures, I was like, how are these kids really fighting these shadow creatures like this? You know what I mean? Like, who've never been in a fight before at all. I mean,
I'm kind of for it though because like it sort of feels a bit like the whole like into the Spider Verse thing. Anyone can be Spider Man. Anyone can wear the mask.
Yeah.
And I sort of dig that kind of like populist sentiment to superheroes as opposed to the chosen one sentiment of superheroes. And it may be a little hokey and unrealistic and whatever cutesy. It definitely was cutesy, but I kind of dig the sentiment that comes with it of just like anyone can be Thor.
Yeah, and to Ashley's point, I didn't hear anyone making that complaint when Billy Batson goes, "Here, everyone, be Shazam too." Like you know, so it's like if you're gonna
uh,
call it out in this and not like I personally didn't have people giving the movie shit for that,
uh,
and I love Shazam too.
and
So
I really love Shazam. I think in Shazam it was like they turned into kind of like adult bodies. So you know what I mean. I think it was that, and then they were kind of, and some of them were kind of like I think some of them were like teenagers. Like one girl was like some of them were teenagers too. Uh,
I think Shazam was building to it more. If anything, the complaint with Thor is that it's just like, okay, and now this happens apropos of nothing that has been set up before. I think that's a legitimate criticism, but I got over that real quick because I enjoyed the moment.
yeah. So just a few things, and we're gonna be moving on to Minions. So with this movie, the way it ends, Jane passing away. We mentioned the Valhalla credit scene, which Idris Elba, nice of him to show up. He kind of showed up as Black Jesus at the end. But good look for
love
him.
Black Jesus. Yeah.
Cool for him. But the other mid-credit scene that we see is that Zeus did not die after Thor threw the thunderbolt through his chest. He didn't die. And then you also see that his son in the film Hercules, who I was surprised the actor they got to play Hercules.
He's here, he's there, he's every fucking where. Hercules, everybody.
Yeah. So
So I just hope that this means that like when Hercules actually like shows up proper, he is forced to square off against Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah. Jason Sudeikis for Reed Richards. Come on, everybody.
So you have Brent Goldstein from Ted Lasso who shows up as Hercules. I wonder how much of that physique is actually him or how much of it is CGI. I wonder, but he's there. So Hunter, where do you think this is leading with the mid-credit scene of Hercules being introduced?
Yeah, so okay. So one of the big complaints about Phase 4 is that people are like, we don't know where we're heading. We're heading for Secret Wars. Why is this so fucking hard for people to grasp? Like that's where we're heading. Like, god fucking damn it. It's not hard to make that connection. But
Because
um
unless you're a hardcore comic nerd that's read it, you don't know what Secret Wars.
eh, that's fair. But even like casual friends of mine are actually aware of what Secret Wars is. So it's like I do agree if you've read, obviously you're more of a comic book reader, you'll know. But I mean, they're setting up Young Avengers. That's way fucking obvious.
Like say what you will about like the Infinity War stuff. They set that up with like five different movie tags at the end where it's like
Yeah.
Thanos is like, well, I've assembled one more piece of my glove this
Yeah.
time. And it's like they
Yeah.
built people up to that. People knew where that was going.
True, and I mentioned it earlier, but the fact that Marvel's going to be at Comic Con, I feel like we're getting a full Phase 5 like rollout, like announcement. So because I think people are kind of going like, "Where are we heading?" And I think that's going to be the very big like, we're leading here. But as far as where else we're heading, Thor 5 is also going to be Thor versus Hercules, which that'll just be fun to see because Hercules is such a dick in the comics. I mean, in mythology, he can be a dick too, but in the Marvel canon, he's really quite an asshole. But then he ends up becoming really one of the most stable and most important, I would say, B level members of the Avengers. So, I mean, he could easily end up on an Avengers team if they decide to go that route. As far as other things, and this is just nerddom kicking in. Valkyries, what do you call it? Not unicorn, steed, I guess.
Pegasus.
It's a Pegasus, isn't it?
Pegasus, thank you. Um, but Aragorn, pardon me. That's in the comics too. But what's interesting is that that's actually originally the Pegasus of the Black Knight, who's already been introduced in Eternals. So that could be a potential connection if they want to go that route too, because they do show multiple Celestials in Omnipotent City.
Yeah.
They're not really acknowledged, but they are shown. And there's one that looks so much like Galactus, and I'm like, I feel like that's
Yeah.
not an accident. And like again, I could just be my nerd brain could just be going like, reference, but I wouldn't be surprised because we do know the Fantastic Four out there. Um, we're getting Doctor Doom at some point. We kind of have to, but Galactus is one of the other big bads you could easily do after Kang, because because Kang is very important to Secret Wars as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get some sort of um, at some point down the road some sort of Galactus actual appearance. But I mean, this sets up that it definitely sets up Young Avengers even more. I feel like too because there is the outbase in Wakanda or the embassy in Wakanda, and I've been saying this and I'll keep saying it. A West Coast Avengers seems like a very easy Disney Plus show or movie to do if you wanted to, since you have the Wakandan embassy in Oakland. So I mean, there's multiple directions that they could go, but I think the big overarching one's going to be Secret Wars. So
Yeah. Ashley, what do you think about Hercules coming in?
Honestly, Hercules is a character that I've never really cared for in the comics. But then, also so is Thor. Thor's a character I just never have given a crap about, and they've managed to make me like Thor. Actually, be one of my favorite characters in the whole Marvel universe, like in the film version, and that's a credit to both Taika and Chris Hemsworth. So, like, my mind is completely open about Hercules. I like the actor, or particular. I mean, the only thing I see him on is Ted Lasso, so I like him on Ted Lasso, and I'll I'm game for whatever they throw at me. We'll see how it goes, but I try to like I don't know, keep my expectations as minimal as possible, and it's not hard with Hercules since it's just not a character that I is close to my heart in any way. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah.
Um, as to whether or not they're like setting up a whole West Coast Avenger thing or like a Young Avenger. Young Avenger seems like it's more kind of like an obvious thing with what they've been setting up because with the Kate Bishop character and Hawkeye and a few of the other characters that they've been setting up, it seems like they're sort of like gearing towards the whole Young Avengers thing. I think a Disney Plus show seems like the smart idea rather than feature film with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Hercules does in the future. What they see, what they do. Um, Now that we're coming, like there's going to be Thor 5 next. This movie, would you say it's? I guess would a good be a good description? It's 68% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Would it be a good word to say divisive kind of with this film? Good one.
Guess so, because I've seen some really harsh reviews from people out there about the movie. Some people just
Same.
absolutely hate this movie, which just kind of astounds me. Um, I, the thing that it almost sounds dismissive to say it, but it seems like the most realistic reasoning for it is that I think a lot of people just kind of hit fatigue with these movies
Yeah.
and they just don't care about them anymore, but they are still positioned as the movies and the monoculture that you need to be part of. And I don't blame anyone if they have fatigue with these movies at this point because like even I feel it, even though I'm like still completely on board with these films. But there's also like a certain level of like, here we go again to it. It's like and eventually it's gonna hit a brick wall where people just start tuning out. And it's gonna be before they've decided to wrap it up. It's the audience will decide it's done before Marvel does.
So
So it's that's what I think the negative reaction is. And I think it's the fact that people don't know where this is all headed. It just seems so scattershot.
Yeah.
so with you, kind of the reaction with this film, do you think they're going to course correct and maybe change the directors, change the tone, or do
Nah.
you think they're going to keep it?
No.
Okay.
They
I
they
think Kevin
yeah.
Feige knows exactly what their plan is,
Yep.
and he knows he's not going to deviate that from that one bit, and people will get on board or they won't. And
Yeah.
he seems to have been fairly committed to that from day one.
But I mean,
Yeah.
they did course correct with Thor after Thor: The Dark World, and they did do like, okay, well, we need seems like we need a change here and things and style and tone. So I don't know.
But Taika's also like someone who's in house with Star Wars too. So I think they have way too much invested in Taika to go, oh yeah, now you need to course correct Thor. I think they'll let him continue to do to do his vision. I agree with Ashley 1,000%. Papa Feige hasn't let me down, hasn't significantly let me down yet. Is what I'll say. And I'll be the one to say it. I think a lot of people are just being assholes about this because, again, we have a woman Thor, and because Phase 4 has been the most diverse phase that we've had. I mean, we have Kamala Khan now, we have a black Captain America, and do I need to even fucking remind people about how shitty people were about. We had to have Chris Evans come out and go, I'm not Captain America anymore, Anthony Mackie is, and people are still like, not my Captain America. Yeah, so people are just being really pretty shitty about the fact that these are getting more diverse, and they're not done yet. People, like, we got Ironheart coming up. Like, there's gonna be a black person wearing Iron Man armor. Sorry, another one. So that's gonna
Yeah.
piss people off too. So I think that is a part of it that people just aren't bringing up. I'm kind of right there where if you think this is one of the worst movies of the year, like you must have just woken up from a coma and this is the first movie you saw because
Yeah.
Morbius exists, Uncharted exists, 365 Days exists, Tall Girl 2 exists. Like there's so much more shit that's come out this year that's way
Jurassic
worse than
World
this.
exists.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, you
that's
already
not.
forgot about Jurassic World, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, no. So I bitched about that for like 2 weeks to the point that even I was just like, I need to put this on my brain. But fuck you, Colin Trevorrow. But yeah, there's so much worse that's come out this year. So if you're saying that this is the one of the worst films of the year, you haven't seen shit. Like, I'm sorry, you just haven't. So
And it's
yeah,
still a little bit that Marvel's like the big kid on the playground. It's like, if you're gonna take pot shots at like the person that's standing at the top of the hill, it's still Marvel. They've been there
yeah,
for a long time.
They've been
yeah.
doing these
But
movies
also
for 14 years now. 14.
Yeah,
yeah, which is crazy. But
that's a long time to be king of the hill.
yeah, but also I will be the person to say this shit too. Either say that Rotten Tomatoes matters or it doesn't. Because if I see one more Snyder stand go like, oh, see, it's rated this low, but oh, what about BVS? Shut up! Y'all like figure out your discourse and stick with it. Like I'm really sick of reading that shit. But I do think that after Comic Con it'll be more clear where we're heading. So, we'll see if that helps with the discourse or not. But, Miss Marvel
Depends
got
on how much they reveal there, because typically they do it on their own, like their own Disney stage.
yeah, D23. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if we get like a full I think we'll get a full phase five reveal. I think we'll get a reveal from like the rest of this year, which I mean we already know, but through like I'll say 20 I'll go 2024. I'll go that far. I think we'll get like a 2 year roadmap of where
Yeah.
we're heading. But
Um,
yeah, this is something I really enjoyed, and yeah, I look forward to watching it in what Disney Plus like 45 days, something like that. So
so what's left in Phase 4? So you have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which is coming in November. That's the last film
come
of this year.
on, Googler, please, for the love of God, come on, man.
I
Uh,
I have faith, even though we're down an actor on that one.
Yeah, which but Letitia Wright, wear your mask. God fucking damn it.
and then you also have She-Hulk, which is the last Disney Plus show, Marvel Disney Plus show that's going
That's
to be this year.
I'm excited for that.
Then you get
I'm a big She-Hulk stan, so
Oh,
that that
same.
that one's for me.
and then Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which comes out next year, May 5th.
And then February we got Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania,
Yep.
aka I feel like we'll see King before then. I
Well, he's
think.
in Guardian 3, isn't he?
Uh, I mean, he might be.
Maybe I'm wrong,
Maybe.
but I'm
Um,
not.
but Ant Man comes up before Guardians, so in
Yes,
theory
it
we
does.
should see. Yeah,
Thank you for
yes,
that.
but I feel like we'll get Kang before then. Even if I have to wait until Ant Man the
Yeah, because
Wasp.
we got the introduction in Loki,
Yes.
Yeah, and
and then so I feel like there's got to be like another brief setup at some point.
yeah, but Jonathan Major is like a perfect actor because he looks a shocking. Like when I saw his face, I went, "Oh my god, he does look like King." I never even fucking thought about that. So I'm excited to see him. Hopefully not kill Scott,
Yeah.
but maybe kill Scott. So yeah, I'm really excited for Ant Man.
And then you have the Marvels, which is coming out July 28th, 2023. And then Fantastic Four, I think is going to be the end of Phase 4. Like, that's supposed to be the last movie of that phase.
Which we don't even have a director or actors for.
No, yeah, I think Comic Con we get a full. I think we get a full. You know, I'll take two big swings at now. I think we get a full cast announcement from Fantastic Four, and I think we get an X-Men confirmation.
Ooh,
Um,
I think you're walking out on a limb that you're gonna fall off.
oh, and I am willing to fall off a limb, but I'm gonna take that swing. I'm gonna call both of those right now.
Yeah.
I think we're years away from them acknowledging doing anything with X-Men.
And you could be totally right.
So, final question, Phase 4. Thumbs up, thumbs down. And with these movies that have currently been released in Phase 4, where do you kind of put Thor Love and Thunder?
I think it's a mixed bag for the most part with Phase 4. I like most of what they're doing. I don't think there's been any real big failures. No, there hasn't been any failures in my book. Love and Thunder is probably near the top for me. It's definitely the most fun I've had in anything in Phase 4, that's for sure. Is it the best movie of Phase 4? Yeah, I think so. I think I liked it more than Spider Man and more than Doctor Strange.
Mm. Hunter.
I'm digging Phase 4. Like everything for the most part's like a B plus is its mean, which like if that's your mean, I'm more than okay with that. My favorite Marvel thing that's not an Avengers film came out in Phase 4, which is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's honestly one of my favorite seasons of television. I love Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan so much in that fucking show, and I love Shang-Chi and Multiverse of Madness for me is like a perfect blend of Raimi shit with Marvel shit. I mean, I didn't know that I needed a music note fight, but I got that shit and I was like, well, god damn it, Sam Raimi, you brilliant bastard. Like I'm liking Phase 4. I'm not It's not as good as Phase 3, which I think is, the big, I don't even want to say complaint, but coming off Phase 3, if this feels like a step down, I guess you could say that. Um I dug Shang-Chi, I dug no, Multiverse of Madness quite a bit. No Way Home is something that, as a Spider-Man simp, I really adore, even though there are issues with it. But and Miss Marvel is one of my favorite. Like, if they can stick that landing, that'll be right there with Falcon and Winter Soldier for me. I love Kamala Khan. Like, I'm such a fan of the character, and I just love how she's being portrayed, and the fact that we're getting scenes in a mosque in an MCU show is just it's fucking wild to me in the best fucking way. So yeah, I'm really liking Phase 4. I'm curious where She-Hulk's gonna go because She-Hulk interacts with so many characters. You could really pull anyone you really want to make that work. So I'm very intrigued by She-Hulk in particular, and I am scared for Wakanda Forever because obviously we lost Chadwick, and I don't know what you do with that movie. Like, I really don't. Like, I know Namor's in there, and I know we get the introduction of Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. So there is stuff that movie look forward to, but that's such an insane ask without Chadwick. I just don't know how you make it work. But
Trusting Kugler.
I know I'm trusting the Cougs. We're friends. I'm trusting in Kugler, but like, and Ashley and I have talked about this. There's a reason why women slash people of color characters were always so invested in them doing a movie or a show, because if they fuck that shit up, they won't try again for another decade. I
Mm.
mean, how long? Like, DC made that Supergirl movie in what, 88, and how long did it take to first to get that show? So I'm really concerned about Wakanda Forever, but I have
I
faith.
feel like we've moved out of that quite a bit. Like, you could have like looked at something like Black Widow being like, it got enough negative reaction that maybe that would be like a little bit of a death knell that like Marvel just doesn't try to do female led stuff for, anymore, at least for a little while. But Feige is very dedicated to bringing these types of characters to the forefront. He knows it's important.
Yeah, so I'm scared as a person of color for Wakanda Forever because I remember all the bullshit reviews when the film was excellent. So, a good to bad Black Panther film would be a whole other wave. So, come
Oh,
on. It'll be fine, hopefully. But
yeah.
There's going to be some hot bad takes out there when it comes out.
oh,
I can
absolutely.
I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. But this Phase 4, yeah, I mean, it's been kind of a big mixed bag. I think there's some movies that could have been, my favorite, like Shang-Chi. I love the first half, but I think the second half really drops off heavy and goes downhill, I think,
Oh,
there.
dragons. Give me dragons, baby.
Yeah. The weakest, I think, is Black Widow and Eternals of this phase, two of the weakest movies
Yeah.
that were there. And then everything else, it just kind of feels like I think No Way Home. I think a lot of it is carried by nostalgia and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Of that past. Multiverse of Madness, I would say maybe right now is maybe my favorite of these Phase 4 movies. I think maybe it's the best one.
Elizabeth Olsen going nuts. Fucking love it.
I think
Love
the
it so
thing I
much.
was probably most tepid on in this entire thing was probably Moon Knight.
Interesting.
I thought it had some good stuff in it, and I did like it, but I never got around to loving that show.
My big issue with Moon Knight is I needed that finale to be another 20 minutes longer. Like, because episode 5 is so fucking great. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, that finale is good, but it's like, it should have been great. And yeah,
Yeah.
I
but
think Oscar Isaac carried that show and was doing some
oh,
incredible work.
absolutely.
But
Like,
outside of that, I think the show had a bunch of problems.
Yeah.
no.
All right. That was Thor: Love and Thunder spoiler review. Sorry about that, there, Matt. Yeah. But if you want to take it away, you're gonna be coming in with Minions: The Rise of Gru. By the way, let us all know
Minions Rise
all
of
about it
Gru.
and your experience and everything like that.
Well, I mean, I've been posting a lot about the Minions on the lead up to this. I mean, it started as a joke, and I think it got a little bit too far. We did dress up in suits for the for the Minion film, and of course it wasn't worth it. I mean, the film was actually surprisingly not that bad. Um, yeah, for like a film for people in diapers. It's actually good. I mean, well, the only criticism that I can make of it as an adult is that it didn't really know what to do with its adult audience. Um, I mean, it's a film set in the 70s, and it has a soundtrack by modern artists like Tame Impala, Caroline Polachek, Phoebe Bridges, Thundercat, and a lot of references to the 70s, but it doesn't have a single adult joke. I think how kids film usually have like a little wink for the parents of the kids. Like Shrek had a lot of those, for example. But Minions, I feel didn't have like a single joke for adults. Maybe it flew over my head. I don't know what you think. Josh, you saw the Minions films too, right?
Yeah, so you're 1,000% correct. There's really no adult jokes in the movie, but I feel like the 70s setting is kind of supposed to be there for the adults because like look, there's no reason this movie should exist. Like why they're still making these outside of just fucking greed. Like it's not creative like inspiration. Like these aren't there because Illumination knows these fucking minions bring in money. Like that's the only reason this movie exists. But
I mean,
uh,
obviously, it means people want to see it. So
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like the God, the audience. Like it's frustrating as a critic because these movies keep coming out. It's like fuck, I have to review this, but I'm feeding the machine by reviewing this shit. But like, so I saw this in 3D. I wore my black as fuck tracksuit because I was like, I'll be goddamn, I'm gonna dress up for these fucking minions. But I took a couple bong rips before I went, and I'll like so the 3D was awesome for this. Like being high definitely helped. Like there's points where like the minions would like run at the screen. I'd be like, oh shit! Like the minions. Like the 3D actually was surprisingly fun, and I don't know about y'all, but one of my favorite things are when villains actually hate children, and the way that the Vicious Six are like, Gru, you're a fat little kid. Why do you think you could be a villain? Go fuck yourself, basically. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, okay. Like I'm actually pleasantly surprised. And the whole kind of, young Gru versus the Vicious Six, I actually went, oh, this is actually a lot more fun than I expected it to be. Again, it's dumb. Like, don't misunderstand. This isn't, something I would even say like this is the definition of a virtual babysitter movie where it's like, oh shit, I need to do my taxes. Here, watch watch Minions. They'll do shit and make loud noises and talk about bananas and all that shit. But the oh, what's his name? Alan Arkin is actually probably the best voice actor in this. Uh, it's shocking actually because he has the whole I formed the Vicious Six and they turn their backs on him uh, to steal insert MacGuffin name here and but it actually works well when him and Gru team up and they actually give you a reason for why Gru keeps the minions employed because the minions fuck up so much early on. Like the movie does kind of need to answer why the fuck does Gru keep them around, and the short answer is because oh what's her name, Taraji P Henson. I can't remember the character she plays. She plays the Cleopatra Jones knockoff, but uh, because she's gonna tear Groot in half and the minions save him. That's the short answer. And I went, oh, you were willing to tear a 12-year-old boy in half. That sounded really wrong as I said out loud, but it's like, oh, all right, like that's kind of fucked up. I appreciate it, but the movie like had some good action bits in the last 20 minutes or so. The movie's only what 87 minutes. Like it's short. Like it's a quick watch. So it's over quick enough so that you're not horribly annoyed by the time it ends, but it also just shouldn't exist.
Matt,
It
did
really
you?
wasn't boring. That's right. It doesn't I don't think it overstays its time, and the action was actually surprisingly good.
Yeah,
The kung fu training scenes was actually pretty funny.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, that was.
yeah. What I kept thinking about was all the different costumes and power ups and shit that the minions have. I kept thinking, yeah, that's another toy to sell. Like
Yeah.
they're
Uh,
gonna fucking churn out toys from this movie like crazy.
hey man, did you
Yeah.
send me pictures of you all dressed up? I wanted to show the stream now.
Yeah, on the Discord chat,
Oh, the
on
Discord
private
chat.
Discord chat.
Okay, I'll pull those up. So, do you know? So, I don't know where did this meme come from about people dressing up? Gentleman Grew, is that what they call it, right?
I mean, probably from Universal. If I gotta say,
Yeah,
yeah,
honestly.
I believe it's called Gentle Minions.
Gentlemanions.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Oh, oh god, that's worse somehow. God
Oh god.
damn. Oh, my skin just crawled as you said that. That was like,
And I believe it's a TikTok thing. Don't quote me
oh,
on
of
that though.
course it is. You
I
Yeah,
don't
damn,
fall for TikTok.
I was gonna
you damn millennials and your Nintendo GameCubes. it's so okay.
Welcome to the old show.
Right. The fact that so I don't even I can't even say I'm dating myself on this because who the fuck would know this? But the fact that there were so many minions that had names, I was like, there's Kevin, which is like the tall one. That's the only reason I remember like who he is. And then there's like Stuart, but I had to like Google all the minions' names, which I already felt like gross doing anyway. I'm like, God, I hate that I'm having to do this. But there's one minion that like takes off with like a black dude, and he like gets on his motorcycle, and the black dude just kind of goes like, "Oh, hey, minion," and just drives off. And I went, "Wait, what is happening?" And the movie just kind of goes, "Hi, Jinx, shut up." And I just that was the point. I just kind of went, "All right, like." Kids movie, like, oh god, I'm gonna sound so old saying this. Like, you don't have to talk down to kids. You can make good kids movies. Like, it doesn't just need to be like banana, huh? Like, you can actually make like Turning Red came out this year, and this is like the worst time for a Minions movie to come out because it's like you really can make good kids shit, and it's really frustrating because it shouldn't be this hard, and yet you know Minions goes out and makes millions of dollars. It's like, well, we're gonna keep getting this shit because there's a demand for it. Because, and yeah, it's frustrating, but this is not Shrek Forever After. Like I was never like offended to that level while I was watching this. I was like, all right, like this is dumb, but like this is Three Stooges for kids. Like that's what this is at this point. And like if kids want to see it, I mean, fine, I guess. Like I want more for you, but you can only help yourselves.
Yeah. So I got the pictures up of Matt at the screening here
Oh,
of the
let's see this
movie.
shit.
So he's looking pretty dapper. I like it. I like it. I like the look here. Also got a group picture here with him. And a few of his buddies that were there. I'm gonna
Oh,
um,
love it.
pull that up
Yes.
here, which is pretty nice.
Oh shit.
Uh,
Looks like you're seeing Secrets of Dumbledore instead of instead of Minions.
I think I like it. And then was your shirt yellow, Matt? Was like a yellow color. The shirt underneath the blazer. Uh, I don't hear you at all, Matt. There, I don't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, wrong button. Yeah, I mean my suit was inspired in the way the minions look. I had like the yellow shirt and the pants were blue, and I had I don't know how you call them in English. The
Suspenders.
the suspenders. Yes, I tried to go in looking like a minion too. That's just that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
You're about 3 feet too tall, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And my friends they went back on Friday. I was actually pissed at them because they went back again to see the minions. They missed the spot again. And I said, okay,
why are
guys,
you
I
saying
mean
this to us?
the show went long enough, guys. I mean it went long enough. I mean,
Oh man, that's some shit.
So
Yeah, like
so what is the joke? Is that it's ironic that adult people are dressing up to see minions? Is that the joke? Is just ironic?
I don't even know, man. I don't even know. Some kind of bag in our brain, and we had this itch inside our brain. We had to do it. We've been brainwashed. We had to do it so the itch in the brain stopped. Yeah.
Oh,
I love
okay.
that the kids don't even know why they're doing the memes. They're just doing the memes.
Yeah.
uh,
And for the meme.
yeah. Yeah. So I mean that's okay. That's kind of interesting. All right. Just they get swept up in the moment. I heard there were some theaters that were banning people, like if they showed up dressed up for it. Like I think it was here in America. I forgot which theater it was, but they said you will not, you cannot enter and go see Minions if you're all dressed up like that. And then these
Why?
because I guess there were some people that were just causing too much ruckus. I mean, there were some people that were just like damaging the theater and just throwing popcorn everywhere and just leaving it like a
Yeah.
wasteland. So they were just like, okay, well, we're not gonna have you come in and do this shit. I forgot which one it was, which
I
theater.
wonder how much of that is accurate and how much of that is just myth making.
What do you mean myth making in regards?
Like the ruckus being caused and damage being caused by people doing the gentle minions meme. Is
Oh,
it like one of those things where it's like someone said it and it spread, and next thing you know, theaters are hearing about like people doing this meme causing damage to the theater, and so they start putting a clamp down on, and nothing's really happened.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm genuinely curious.
Oh, I mean, I've seen some TikToks of some people like at the screenings and things like that, and all that type of stuff like that. Like I think some people said that some people were so loud they could hear them in the next theater over or something like that.
Oh
Like,
God.
so that was kind of I've seen kind of some stuff like that. So what rating would you give Minions: Rise of Gru there, Matt?
No, man. Oh, you're killing me. I mean, if I was a baby, I mean that shit was fucking great. Like it was like a minion compilation. Had no actual plot, but it was a minion funny moments compilation. I give it as a baby a 9, but as an actual adult, yeah, just don't bother. Not even for the meme.
Hmm.
Not even for the meme.
Okay. Hunter.
yeah, it's I don't know. Like it's so inoffensive at points, but at the same time, this is the type of movie that I hate reviewing because I have to like trek to a theater to see fucking Minions. So it's like I remember watching Ron's Gone Wrong and going, "Wow, this is a movie with a good message," and no one saw that fucking movie. And then I see Minions make all its money. It's like This is why we keep getting dumb shit for children and not original shit. So like it pisses me off more. So I mean, I'd probably give this a low, like the lowest stream it I possibly could because like yeah, you don't need to go out to a theater and see this shit. You can wait for Paramount Plus because I think that's what carries the Minions movies. Um, like you can wait for Paramount Plus on this shit. You don't need to, But the 3D actually did work shockingly well, and the last kind of boss battle was surprisingly fun. So yeah, like the lowest stream it humanly possible.
All right. That was Minions: Rise of Gru. Yeah.
So rush out to see it at your earliest convenience, says Hunter.
Not that. That's not what I said.
Yeah. Did you want to head out, Matt? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty late here, so I had a blast with you people, and well, I hope I can join you again.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank
Yeah,
you for
have a good night,
waiting,
man.
man. Much appreciated, man.
Great to
Bye
see you,
bye.
Matt.
All right, man. Take care. All right. We're gonna be moving on to a couple more movies, and we're gonna be heading out of here. Did you all want to do? Which one do you all want to do? Lightyear, Elvis, or Black Phone? First.
I've
I
only seen
mean,
the Black Phone, so
so I haven't seen Black Phone. I have thoughts on Elvis, but I've also seen Lightyear, too. But I'd be curious to get Ashley's thoughts on Black Phone because I know she's a big horror buff. But
Okay. All right. So, right, Ashley is on here for the Black Phone. So the Black Phone, it is a new horror movie that is out right now, starring Ethan Hawke. It's also directed by Scott Derrickson and written by C. Robert Cargill. This movie takes place in the 80s. Yeah, it's the 80s, right? Or is it the late?
yeah, early '80s, late '70s, something like
Yeah,
that.
kind
I
of
think it's
early.
like '81 or something like that.
Yeah, early or no, actually, I think it's the 70s because they're talking about going to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it's
Oh,
the
that's right.
so it's the 70s. So it's a movie that takes place, a horror film takes place in the 70s with a little bit of a supernatural bend to it. And the kind of one of the big kind of villains of this movie is Ethan Hawke, who plays this man in the mask who is going around abducting these different kids in this neighborhood, which really plays into a fear that was kind of big and very much back in the 80s and the 70s that started to really emerge. I mean, it's still a big fear now, but a lot of that abductions of children, serial killers that were in their kind of heyday that you saw a lot in the 70s and the 80s, of people like Bundy and Manson and John Wayne Gacy and people like that. So it really kind of plays in that fear. And then Scott Derrickson, who is a guy who is 55 years old, did grow up in this age, in the age of the 70s. So, I heard an interview with C. Robert Cargill of saying how much, reflective of, his time growing up, you know what I mean, was brought into this movie because this movie is based on a Joe Hill, who is the son of Stephen King. It's based on a short story written by him, and they kind of had to kind of come into it because when you read the short story, it really is just mostly the boy gets kidnapped and then it's him being held, and then that's kind of it's really mainly the kind of last act of the movie that's the short story. So it had to kind of come in and add more stuff to it, add more characters to it, add more kind of arcs to different things in this, which I think fleshed it out a lot more. I will say with this movie, first of all, I will praise the two young actors of this. The two young actors, the actor who is the character of Finney, who's played by Mason Thames, is his name. I think he's very good in this. And it actually, I see kind of like it's easy for a villain to kind of overtake things, and especially as good of an actor as Ethan Hawke is, to really just overshadow most people in movies like this. But I think it really is the lead young actors who do a very good job in this and really presenting themselves in this. And also big shout out also to the actress who plays his sister, Madeline McGraw, who plays his sister Gwen, is also very good in this as well. And she kind of has like a supernatural special ability, a little bit of something like I guess you could say like a Shining-esque ability, where she can kind of see these different things going on, of these different abductions that are happening. That kind of comes in here. I also think she's fantastic in this as well, and in so many great scenes. And of course, being kind of a story written by Joe Hill, who's the son of Stephen King, you're gonna have the psychotic bullies here that are there, just like they kind of get passed down there. So that's kind of an element in this story, which kind of I think also worked very well. And there's some harsh bullies. They even beating up the like the sister, the beating up the sisters. Like one great moment there, where they're just beating the shit out of him, and then beat the shit out of his sister who tries to help him. I mean, it's just damn. I mean, it's just vicious. But I think a lot of great stuff in this movie. Ashley, what were kind of your thoughts on the film?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of echo a lot of what you said. I think definitely, I think the kids did a really good job, especially the two main actors. There's some of the dialogue in the beginning at first took like a little bit of getting used to, and it's more because it's along the lines of that kind of like, oh, we're gonna have 10-year-old kids speaking dialogue that sounds like they're 40-year-olds, where it's like they're
Okay.
all the kids are wise beyond their years, sort of dialogue in how they're speaking, which I don't necessarily mind or think is a bad thing. I actually tend to kind of dig that as a tone, but it took a little bit to center myself in the film as it was doing that. But what there like a few scenes in particular, especially with the young girl where she just like delivered a powerhouse performance that it's just like absolutely kind of like heartbreaking and heart wrenching. It's like both kind of existing in an abusive family home and trying to support each other amongst a father that's basically like drinking himself stupid and then only when he's not beating them. And it's I almost feel like it's unfair to like constantly bring up Stephen King when talking about Joe Hill because like he's a great writer in his own
Yeah.
right, and he goes by Joe Hill for an obvious reason. So it's like he's not just always like the Stephen King, progeny guy. So he can have his own unique identity and as an author, and he is a great horror author in his own right. But at the same time, is like with especially with like a lot of the bully stuff in this film, I was getting really heavy Christine vibes with a lot of it, like with the interactions with like the bullies and the kids that would like stick up, against the bullies for other kids, and it's it. There's no mistaking, that he is his father's son in a lot of ways because it's definitely covering a lot of the same material. But I think they do a really good job with it here. I almost hesitate to call this movie a horror because while it is technically a horror, and that's probably the most accurate description of it, it's not really a scary movie. If anything, it's like a thriller with supernatural elements in it.
Okay.
In the same way that you would almost like hesitate to call The Dead Zone a horror movie, because it's
Okay.
really not much of a horror movie. And so I think that's kind of where this movie lives. Like, there's a few kind of like big jump scares in the movie, and they get kind of telegraphed, but that's the only time that it really kind of like approaches what I would call horror. The rest of the time, it lives in very much kind of like a heavy, um, tense, psychological suspense thriller area. And it works really well at that. And one of the things that I love the most about the movie is the entire thing is constructed as basically slowly, piece by piece, laying these little pieces on the board, knowing that it is basically going to pay off every single one of those pieces in the last 5 minutes. And even if you see it coming that that's what they're doing, by the time you get to that moment where all of the dominoes are falling one after another, and because they've been set up so well in advance, it is hard for it to not feel like fulfilling as hell. And as a result, like the last 5-10 minutes of this movie are just like incredibly exhilarating, and just pays off everything in the movie that came before. I think my only real problems with the movie is there's some things that there's a few elements that I think just didn't work as well as I wanted them to, and they almost feel like a little bit tonally mismatched. Such as I'm gonna try to be like less spoilery as I can. But with the with like the jokey brother, who we don't know his relationship when he comes in, and
Yeah.
how he fits into all of this, and he doesn't really, and it
Yeah.
only seems to like pose more questions than it really answers, and I don't think pays off quite in the way that they were hoping it to pay off. And there's a few elements like that just don't really click or don't work as well as I think they wanted them to. But the core elements of the movie um, really do work and pay off, and that's the important part. So ultimately, it's a pretty damn satisfying movie.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know the character that there. I know that actor. I think he's been in pretty much every Scott Derrickson movie. He's like a staple of that actor. He shows up. I think he was in
Yep.
every movie except for Doctor Strange. I think that actor. Um, but he's kind of a big staple in a lot of Scott Derrickson movies. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this movie is very strong and very good in its execution. When it comes to the writing, when it comes to the direction, especially like I said, the performances. Yeah, I talked about the kids, and you mentioned the father, Jeremy Davies, who is in this. Who he kind of it could be kind of a stereotypical thing of like the drunk dad and everything like that. But I think the way he kind of plays it is really so pathetic and so kind of sad
he,
and so
he he's a tragic figure in the film
yeah.
ultimately, but he's also like a genuinely scary guy
Hmm.
in certain scenes, and I thought that was wild because I just don't think of Jeremy Davies that way. He just always seems like such a adorable guy, and
Oh
every
shit,
time
Dickie Bennett. Oh,
yeah,
let's go.
in
Okay.
in everything I've seen him in, he just seems like so adorable and easy to like. And it was wild seeing him in a movie where he's like genuinely terrifying.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay. I love him as an actor, so that's actually really cool to hear he's in this.
yeah, Jeremy Davies, who's been in things like Justified. His big role also was in Saving Private Ryan, which he was in. You know, and
How about
I
Secretary? Bring up
For,
Secretary. Secretary's
for,
great.
First thing
Secretary.
I ever saw him in was David O. Russell's first movie. Not that you should look up any of David O. Russell's movies, but nonetheless, his first movie, Spanking the Monkey, which I think was also Jeremy Davies' first movie.
Okay. And what did you think about Ethan Hawke in this movie?
I thought he was good. I mean, he's playing like a very kind of broad character, in a sense. Like his job is to be creepy. There's not a lot of nuance to his character, I found,
Yeah.
but he definitely creates a very kind of like foreboding presence, and kind of obstacle for the kids that he's kidnapped. I think the only thing is I kind of wish there was more payoff for his character, um, because at the risk of revealing too much, it's kind of alluded that there's more purpose to what he's doing, but by the time you get to the end, there really isn't. He's just kidnapping kids and holding them in the basement for a while for reasons that are never
Mm.
really explained, and then eventually killing them. And there's not a lot of explanation for it. And I was kind of hoping that there was going to be something larger there, like almost that was going to play into like like satanic panic of the era or something like that.
Interesting. I like the look of the character that Ethan Hawke is playing, like the different stuff with the mask that he has. I think is pretty creepy. I mean, it makes for a good Halloween costume. You know what I mean? If you're out about, it's easy. Probably just pick up kind of one of these different masks, and it kind of like you see different versions of it throughout the movie, which is nice. And like you said, I think there's not a whole lot here with Ethan Hawke. I think he does good with the material he's given, but I think a lot of it's just hey, just be creepy. Kind of just be a creepy guy.
Yep.
There. And I thought that was good. I thought that was solid enough for this movie. And just to see the journey of the kind of main character of Finney, who's played by Mason Thames, was very good to see, and I was kind of into that very much. Yeah, I very much enjoyed this movie quite a bit. And I was kind of looking forward to it this year when I heard who was directing it, who was writing it, and I was like, oh, I'm eager to go see this. and it paid off. And for me, I would give it a strong, yeah, I'd give it a strong tune in for me
Okay.
with this movie. I definitely say, hey, go check it out in theaters. Ashley, what about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I can't remember what I graded it on Letterboxd. Something probably like 3 or 3.5 on
Okay.
Letterboxd. I tend to be pretty conservative with my star ratings out of 5. Um, it was definitely good. I think it's definitely worth seeing. Um, if you can still see it in theaters, I think that's probably worth it, especially if you can go and see it with an audience, because movies like this are always more fun with an audience that's into it. But if not, I imagine it's probably going to be on digital pretty soon. But
Mm.
yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. You know, especially if you like this type of film, if you like the filmmakers' other films like oh god,
Sinister?
um, Sinister. Yes, blanking on the title. Thank you. If you like their stuff like Sinister, then I think you're really gonna dig this.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 I very much enjoyed it. So that was the Black Phone. Did you want to stick around, Ashley, for Elvis or like?
Um, act- Actually, I've got my kid waiting to go watch a movie, so I think I will skip out and let you guys cover Elvis. But
Okay.
it has been a blast being on and chatting movies with y'all. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you,
Ashley,
Ashley.
so good to see you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, catch y'all later.
All right.
Take
Take care.
care.
Ashley. All right. And then there were two. Um,
Yeah, right.
all right, we're going to be moving on to our next movie, which is Elvis. Elvis, which is the new biopic film about the real life figure Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley, who is in this film played by Austin Butler. This is a Baz Luhrmann directed film. It also stars Tom Hanks, who plays Elvis's manager, Tom Parker, the Colonel Tom Parker. In this film. And with this film, it very much is from the perspective of the Tom Hanks character of Tom Parker, where you kind of see it through his eyes of his relationship with Elvis. And I think the style of Baz Luhrmann, if you know kind of what he's done in his other kind of his other feature films. I remember seeing his film Great Gatsby, which was a film set in the 1920s, but even in that film it like had Jay-Z who did the soundtrack, so it included like modern day hip hop and everything like that. And the style that the way that Baz Luhrmann did it is kind of similar if you've seen that film in this Elvis film, where he's going to bring a lot of that flair, a lot of those style. And his favorite, he loves that zoom in shot, like with the camera, where he pulls all the way
Oh,
back and
does
then
he?
zoom all the way in. Even the beginning of this film, it's like Tom Parker, he's getting rushed to the hospital, and it's zooming in on his like what do you call it, the IV bag, and him on the
Yeah.
gurney and all this other stuff. So, Baz Luhrmann is a very visually, pleasing guy. He loves kind of those visuals, loves getting into that, and almost like a music video director. Which I don't think is an insult to say that. I think he still tell a very good story, but he is very much a guy that you really notice has that flair and has that style when he comes to directing movies. And I think he brings that here with this Elvis movie. And I think somewhat that is its biggest strength, and I think it's somewhat of its one of its weaknesses. Because when you see Elvis and when he's performing, I think it's great. Like when you see the concert scenes in this movie, those are really really well done. Those are well done, really really well. And Austin Butler, when he is a big standout in this movie, whether or not I think he'll get nominated for his performance, I think he
Oh, he will.
maybe he probably he
He
more than
will.
likely will. I think he deserves it. I think he carries a lot of good charisma, charm. When he's the Elvis figure. I don't really know. I'm not an Elvis historian, so I don't know how much of closely he is accurate to the actual portrayal of Elvis. But I did like seeing him on screen, and he was great to watch anytime he was on there. And I think he delivers very well at making this figure interesting to watch. And this movie clocks in around at like close to 2 hours. It's 2 hours about 39 minutes. There's just
Yeah.
kind of close around to 3 hours. Um, I think some of that. I mean, I think the film, the second half of it is better than the first half. I think when you see Elvis in his later years, because like I said, most of the film really is Tom Parker and him meeting Elvis and kind of sweeping Elvis off his feet of going like, oh yeah, you're super talented and signing with him. And we'll get into the performance by Tom Hanks as Tom Parker, because I think some of it is, a little kind of, like a caricature or a cartoon a little bit, in some aspects, because in a lot of these musical biopics you're gonna have the shitty manager, and he's the
Yeah.
shitty manager. And in a lot of scenes where he's there, you can almost see like the devil horns and tail, stick out. Like when he's constantly
Yeah.
doing things with Elvis, it's like, oh yeah, don't worry, just sign this piece of paper and you'll be a okay. You know what I mean? You can almost just kind of see it there. What did you kind of think about this film?
Yeah, man. I could give a fuck about this movie. I thought this movie sucked. I was just like, look, y'all. Like, let me just put it out there on Front Street. I'm a black dude. I have no fucking reason to care about Elvis. It would be like me caring about a bank robber that only robbed black banks, like black owned banks. Like it's just like why the fuck should I care about this shit? Austin Butler, God bless him. Like I get it. Like if you're offered the chance to play Elvis, why the fuck wouldn't you audition for it? So like I get it from that perspective, but this needed to be a miniseries because for the few things that I do know about Elvis, as far as like researching, like all the fun stuff about Elvis, they just don't even bring up. So like the fact that Elvis was like a champion, like fucking eater, like like that's never touched on at all. Like I think you see Elvis eat once in this movie. The fact that he was like a big like karate like learn karate and shit. That's never brought up. The
Do they
fact
even
that
bring up like the fried PB and J? I don't think they don't bring that up.
no,
Yeah.
like they like the stuff that I was mildly interested in, they just completely gloss over. And with a runtime of 3 hours, that's pretty goddamn unforgivable. Because there's so much of this movie that okay, so this movie tries to course correct Elvis. Like it really tries to make Elvis more liberal than he definitely was, and that was something I just kept rolling my eyes at. Even having him being like a peeping Presley, if you will, with black people like performing music and doing churching along and having him like go do the whole like oh I'm like oh my fucking god
Catching the Holy
like
Ghost.
what yeah, I was sitting there there like, give me a fucking break. And the fact that the movie goes like, well, he was a Captain Marvel fan. And he has the fucking like thunderbolt around his neck while he's catching the Holy Ghost. Like I was just like, dude, like come the fuck on. Like eye roll central for me. And um the movie attempts, and I say attempts because it goes, well, he was a fan of black music, but any black musician, especially when it comes to BB King, is here just to prop up Elvis. And that's something that pisses me off so goddamn bad because there's this whole sequence where he's talking to BB King, BB fucking King,
Mm.
and and he's like, oh, I'm struggling doing my music, and BB King is like, basically gives him the Bagger Vance speech. He's like, you're Elvis Presley, you can do anything. It's like, oh my, like, you're gonna have BB King giving like this motherfucker this speech, like that's the only reason the black artists are there, and it comes across so Bagger Vancy, and it made my skin crawl whenever they did that shit. There's a Little Richard performance in here that is like he performs for about 90 seconds and that's it. There's no interaction between Elvis and Little Richard or anything like that. It's just there to go, hey, look, Little Richard, and then they treat him like the Sandman. They get his black ass off set, and it's just like, okay, and it keeps doing that. And I think the biggest, I mean, I could go more into the black music shit, but I think I've covered it enough. But the biggest mistake I think for me is that they had the movie come from Tom Hanks's Tom Parker perspective, because I think if you have it come from Elvis's perspective, yes, it would have come across a little Dewey Coxish, but I think it actually would have lent more validity to the movie to have Elvis tell his own story, maybe as he is in the middle of an overdose, or he's close to the end. I think that would put more weight on the film. But having Tom Parker, who's such a piece of shit, tell this story. It handicaps the story in a sense because you go, can I believe anything you're fucking saying? And two, it just makes for kind of a gross journey, but there's really no resolution between him and Elvis. The movie just kind of ends.
Mm.
So it's frustrating because I think the especially in the last, I guess I'd say the last third, the Elvis like comeback special that he does, that's actually really well filmed, and I think Austin Butler does a good job with most of the musical stuff. But again, this is one of those movies where the guy doesn't sing, and that just bugs me because it's like, why are you doing these musical movies if you're casting an actor that can't sing? Like they're doing that whole like we're splitting part of Elvis's like actual recordings over what the actor's doing, and it's like, okay, like if you can't sing, don't star in these fucking movies. And
Uh,
it's
uh,
like
I don't know. It's tough. I mean,
go
sometimes you
go
can't
go.
always find a guy. I mean, it's tough to find the actors that maybe portrays the character really well, but can't really sing. I know that's kind of tough sometimes.
But I mean, but I'm sorry, but Edric Rocket Man was only a couple years ago, and Edgerton did it. So it's like I know Elton John is a different type of singer, but it's like we've seen actors and actresses do this shit and be able to actually, sing. So I understand people are gonna go like, well, Elvis has a unique voice. It's like, okay, well then I don't want to hear this guy get nominated for Best Actor because he's not doing the whole fucking part. And I had the same problem with Rami Malek before anyone asked, but it's really that part is very frustrating just as a viewer. They also gloss the fuck over his wife being 14. Like they don't even bring that shit up. They're just like, shh.
Yeah.
Like they brush past that shit so quickly, and the problem is that in brushing past that, we don't get to know Priscilla Presley like at all
Yeah.
until she goes, "I'm leaving you," and I went, "Oh, you're still here?" Like, all right, like it's just like it. So it doesn't even come across as the emotional beat that it should. It just comes across really hollow. And Tom Hanks, I'll be the one to say it. He's bloody goddamn awful. He should be ashamed of himself because this is a role that I was sitting there the whole time going, John Goodman would crush this shit. If you
Ah.
cast John Goodman in this
Oh yeah.
role, like that's a slam dunk because he could definitely get across that villainy and that like deceitfulness. But Tom Hanks, like, there's a reason why Tom Hanks doesn't really play villains. I mean, did anyone see The Circle? Exactly. That's why he doesn't play villains that often because he's not very good at it. All due respect, I'm a huge fan of his, but he's not good at it. And this is one of those movies where BB King pulls that Bagger Vance speech. Is like, he's gonna screw you over, and he tells him that like early on in the movie, like 30 minutes in. And so then it's another 2 hours of us just watching Elvis basically be a dumbass until, the very last second word the story requires him not to be. So when the movie goes, don't you feel bad for Elvis? I'm like, no, no, I don't feel bad for Elvis. This is actually kind of on him. It doesn't go. It really glosses over the whole Memphis mafia bit too, because he has his family there with him, but it doesn't really talk about how they're being bloodsuckers as well. Just as bad as Tom Parker is being. They really gloss over that too. So there's a lot of beats that I'm like, you really need to hit this harder, and you don't, and it really detracts from the film as a whole. I think if you make this a miniseries and you recast Tom Parker, I think you could have something much better here. But for me, honestly, this was such a waste of time for me because at the end of the day, when you're doing one of these biopics, it's like, do you learn something about the artist that you didn't know before? And I left the theater going, I didn't learn anything new about Elvis that I didn't know before. Like it just felt like it felt very much like a, hey, Elvis liked black people. See, he liked gospel music. It's like, well, that doesn't mean shit. like that's cool, but it just really felt like a waste of time at the end of the day. I didn't really learn anything about him. So
Yeah. For me, I don't think I'm as harsh as you. I see some of your complaints there. When it comes to this movie, like I said, it's close to 3 hours, and it's like it's basic kind of Wikipedia search knowledge of Elvis. I think you can find like,
Yes.
it's like
Yeah.
okay, yeah, he was in the army. Okay, he did that. It doesn't really get into any of the grimier kind of elements, like you said, the whole thing with Priscilla, her being 14. I don't know what was the big reaction at the time of her being 14 and him being, because I think when he first started dating her, he was like 22 or in his early 20s, I
That
believe.
sounds right. Yeah, I think I'm like 22.
So I know that was like any, like if your favorite rock stars from Bowie to to members of the Rolling Stone to members of Zeppelin, there have been instances where a lot of those guys dated teenage girls, who were 15, who were 16, 17 years old. So I don't know at the time what the big reaction to that was of him being with a 14-year-old girl, of whether there's people going like, oh, okay, well, that's just what maybe dudes did at the time. I don't know, but that kind of gets glossed over. And when it comes to another thing with Elvis Presley, he gets brought up in the conversation a lot of being one of the OG musical culture vultures, of being a
Yep.
guy that could profit and could be successful because he was a white guy and he couldn't, black people couldn't play at the same venues that he could play at, and he was able to take that sound that black people had and profit from it, because of what was going on during that time of Jim Crow laws and segregation laws and things like that. That really isn't really delved into very much of
At all.
the that isn't really delved into of how this guy is taking this music and profiting from it. From and I don't know if how much of a close relationship he had with BB King. I've seen photos of him with BB King. I don't know what the how close of a relationship it was, but here, like you said, it is portrayed as kind of like it's just shown as like, oh well, hey, he's got black friends, so he can't be racist. He's kind of,
Yeah, and there's definitely that element that's gross, I will
yeah,
say.
it's like it's kind of portrayed as that. But yeah, I mean, and then when you mentioned the Little Richard scene when they go and see Little, like he has to go clear his head, like he has to, and then he goes to the black neighborhood, you know what I mean, to hang out at the black
Yep.
club. He has to go clear his head, and they're seeing Little Richard perform. And they're sitting around talking, watching the guy play. And it's almost like in that scene, it's weird because BB King is almost trying to like get him to steal Little Richard's music because he's like, man, you could
Yeah.
take his music and you could be way successful and more famous than he ever was at doing it. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like, you just giving him ideas like that, and like you see
that's
this.
a gross scene.
Yeah, I thought that was I thought that was really weird. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the stuff with BB King and all that stuff like that was just so, I think, pointless in the movie. I think a lot of supporting characters outside, like besides the two leads of Tom Parker, Tom Hanks, and then Austin Butler's Elvis, all the really supporting cast is pretty weak. You don't really get a sense of it any other really character in this movie. Not
Yeah.
Elvis's mother, who I know his mother was a big figure in his life.
Yeah,
Um,
and that she's written off really early too.
yeah,
Like,
that is completely just done away with. His father, and like you said, you mentioned Priscilla, who was his wife. You don't get a sense of her character at all. She's just kind of just there. It just mainly focuses on the two of them, Elvis and Tom Parker. And when it comes to all this other stuff, like it does have these traditional things of being a movie set in the period of the 60s, because it goes through from the 50s all the way up until the 80s, all the way up until Elvis died, basically. You do have those moments where you see like, oh, Martin Luther King's been shot. You know what I mean? Like usually in a movie in the 60s that's set in that time period, you're
yeah,
gonna have that where it's like, oh, and then everybody sits around the TV and then watches the news, or then also when JFK got shot, and then also when Robert Kennedy got shot, you're gonna have those moments. I don't know how actively political Elvis was in those days. Uh,
so yeah, that people forget he went to like President Johnson, Lyndon Johnson, and was like, "I want an FBI badge so I can help wage my own war on drugs." So
yeah.
him being torn up about MLK Jr. being assassinated, I went, and I'm like, so the thing is too, he even goes like, "Oh my God, like MLK Jr.'s been shot. He was always right when he spoke," and I went. I fucking doubt Elvis said that. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and that's what I mean by overcorrecting. Like the movie is so clearly aware of there will be black people watching this shit, and like, how do we go ahead and make this? How do we make this? How do we make this Cherry Robitussin go down a little easier? And I just went, yeah, y'all, you're not doing a great job with it, and
yeah,
it's frustrating because again, what's the actor Austin Butler? Is it
yeah,
Austin Butler? Um, I get it, man. Like this guy, he's you want to get to that next level. I get that. And being offered the chance to play Elvis Presley, let's be real, white people love them some Elvis. So I get being offered this. You're like, oh my god, this is the role that can take me, to that next level. But the script failed him. Um, uh, Baz Luhrmann, man, it's so weird because I love Moulin Rouge so much, and I even love Australia, even though that movie is way too goddamn long. When you get to The Great Gatsby, that's where I kind of started going like, all right, this gag is kind of starting to run thin, and the the when he has the Vegas residency, Vegas, yeah, when he has the Vegas
yeah,
residency, I really like that sequence in particular.
yeah,
Like seeing him actually like direct the band and all that, because it's the first time really in the movie he feels like a competent musician, which is a really big problem for a 2.5 hour movie, and that's like in like the last 25 minutes. It's like, okay, you're actually seeing Elvis direct the band and be like, okay, you come in here, you come in here, and I'm just sitting there going, God damn it, why wasn't this in like his first performance? We actually see him, grow into this musical icon, which, my feelings about him, aside, Elvis is a musical icon. I can recognize that. But it's really frustrating because we don't like the drug problems that he has kind of just comes in the last third. Like they hint at it once, but then they never touch on it again. Um, him going off to the military, that's done such a like a 5 minute scene where I just went, all right, like we're
yeah.
just we're brushing past this. Like for almost a 3 hour movie, the amount of stuff that just kind of zooms by, I went, there's a lot of stuff here you could have focused on, and they just don't. And it's really quite frustrating because I
Yeah.
know Elvis did have a more interesting life than what's portrayed here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for a movie with this length, it feels like they don't really go that much into depth into anything. And I
Yeah.
said the interesting stuff is really comes during the second half. We see an older Elvis, and you see him kind of stuck in Vegas, and you see the real tension with him and his manager. That was, I thought, really good.
Yeah,
But
that
that,
like there was a couple scenes that were good.
yeah, and that, but that doesn't come until the last 30 minutes, the last maybe 45 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, it's like the last 30 because that's when um so that was the other thing. Like he Tom Parker had like all these gambling debts and all this shit. And they kind of touch on that, but it's really not until he gets to the whole like, I'm gonna keep him here, like keep him from going on an international tour. And again, that's in like the last 25-ish minutes. It's like, damn, this could have been like you could have woven this throughout, and really kind of had more weight when it hits this last third. And it's frustrating because again, I kept saying this should have been a 4 episode, 90 minutes apiece miniseries, and I think you could have fleshed so much stuff out and actually made it, a thing.
Hmm.
But Tom Hanks is so miscast in here. He's basically being what he should have been playing Saving Mr. Banks, like except like fat. Like it's so weird. But he keeps calling Elvis like my boy, which I just went, all right, that's weird that you keep
Well,
calling him that. It's
apparently
like,
that's what the real life guy did. That's what he would do. He would call everybody
oh
like my.
really?
Yeah, that's
That's creepy. But like there is a point where even Elvis's dad so that was something else. I went, this is an interesting thread that you could have developed. Like his dad just kind of goes, well, we're making money, whatever. But he's supposed to be his manager. And Elvis, calls him out in the last 20 minutes on that. Like, how am I broke? You're supposed to be keeping track of all this. And they really just brushed past that too. And there's so much of that where I went, this is an interesting thread. What are you gonna do with it? Oh, nothing. All right.
Yeah.
And it just kind of keeps doing that. And there was just a point I went, all right, you're only gonna go like you're not interested in making an Elvis biopic. You're interested in making an Elvis fluff piece. And uh, like we compare it to something like Rocket Man, where Elton John talked about the fact that I need to be shown that I was an asshole, and and you get to see how much of a prick Elton John actually was, and how Elton John was willing to peel those layers back and let us, as the audience, see him at his worst. And Lisa Marie Presley and Priscilla Presley, they were heavily involved in this behind the scenes, and it really shows because that like even anything remotely of like a shaded side, they're kind of like, oh, we're gonna pull that back, and so it comes across more as an Elvis fluff piece than an Elvis biopic.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it comes to biopics now, it's like it's tough because the formula got exposed by Dewey
Yeah,
Cox, Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story
yeah,
of like the setup, everything of what happens typically in these biopics, the formula. So now, in most of these kind of recent biopics, they've tried to kind of like, okay, what way can we jazz it up and not make it so traditional and like get on up? Like they had it where it was like they told the story out of order and they like these little vignettes and it kind of went around talking about his life, and then in Rocket Man, it was basically a musical about the life of Elton John. And then you did have something more traditional like Strata Compton, but I love Strata Compton. I think Strata Compton is
same.
very, very good.
Yep.
And with this Elvis movie, I think it's definitely better in the recent crop of biopics that we've gotten. It's better than Bohemian Rhapsody. I think it's definitely better than that. Uh,
Okay.
I don't think it's as good as Rocket Man or as good as Strata Compton. So it's kind of just below those things. And like I said, I do really love the performance of this. The performances in this, mainly from mainly I think just well, I shouldn't say performances. I should say just performance. I think Austin Butler. I mean, he does a good job, and he looks similar to Elvis a little bit.
Yeah,
Has
he
has
does.
you know has a good swag, especially when they go into his later life and they add a little bit more kind of makeup and prosthetics. It's like okay, yeah. And Elvis is such a figure where it can draw parody because there's so many like Elvis impersonators. He is a big figure in pop culture.
So
Uh,
many.
where different impressions and everything like that. But I think he does a good job of not making Elvis feel like a caricature. Um, I do like kind of some of the look of the movie when they the style that Baz Luhrmann has, but I think sometimes it could be just too overindulgent. Um, yeah, and then the stuff with Elvis in regards to like his relationship with black musicians and black people in this movie is not good. It kind of glossing over the grimier elements of his life. I didn't really particularly like all that much. But yeah, so all that being said, I would give it maybe just to stream it yeah, for me in this, and then also the soundtrack of this movie with like much like I said with Boz Lerman did with Great Gatsby, which was like a modern day soundtrack of sounds of hip hop and pop. He does that with this and this Elvis movie. I don't think it really adds to anything in this movie. Like you have like
No,
Doja Cat who's in
not at
this, like what
all.
they do like a remix
Oh,
of.
that song is fucking goddamn awful. Like that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that was rough.
yeah, and I like Doja Cat. I like her music. Uh,
Thing.
But I think I was like, what is this? I don't understand what the purpose of this is. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And like so, yeah. For me, and Elvis is a musician. Thought he was a good musician. I like some Elvis songs. I like some Elvis performances, and this movie did make me want to check out some Elvis performances and everything like that. Yeah. So for me, I just give it maybe a stream it, high stream it, maybe. What about you?
Yeah, man, this is on my worst stuff for the year.
Wow.
I'll never watch this shit again. I felt like this is a waste of my goddamn time. Like I was just like I said, I get it, Austin Butler. Like I get it. I get wanting to take that step, and I have to keep hammering that point home because I really do understand that. And I want that to come across. But goddamn, everything else in this movie just felt so fucking hollow. And at the end of the day, I left the theater just going, that's almost 3 hours of my life I won't get back, and I'll never watch this again. I will give a lot of credit to the costume designer.
Yeah,
Um,
that's also very
oh,
good.
I had their fucking name here, and I don't have it now. But They did a great job. Like the costume designing is extremely fantastic as far as like the different outfits that Elvis has. I thought that was actually
Yeah.
really well done. So it's not like this movie is like there's nothing good about it. I thought that was actually well done. Um, and some of the cinematography, especially with the concert stuff, actually does
Yeah.
work. But that's a shockingly low amount of the film, which I actually thought there'd be more concert performances, but there's only like three really big ones. There's like the first one, four. So like there's the first one where he debuts,
Uh.
the one where he gets arrested, the comeback special, and then the Vegas residency. So it's maybe about 25 ish minutes maybe of performances, but the rest of it is like the drama bullshit, and that's where I just kind of went, yeah, I don't care. um I stand by the fact that if you recast Hanks, I think this is better because you get less of a, like a twirling my mustache, I'm gonna tie Elvis to the road, like you get less of that shit. But I just goddamn. Oh my god, what's below stream it? Remind me. I'm
Skip it.
sorry. Yeah, this is like a high skip it for me. I just
We also do
you
have
can
waste
watch
of
it.
film. We have waste of fucking film. That's our lowest rating.
Ooh, you know what? Yeah, I'm going there. It's a waste of fucking film. I just
Wow.
like because you can watch a compilation of the performances on YouTube, and that's like 18 minutes. You don't need to watch this full almost 3 hour film to get 25 minutes of like good shit. And Hanks, there was just a point where I went, this is on you for being dumb. Like you have your stereotypical black friends telling you this guy is fucking you over, and you're just like, oh no, he's not. And it's just like, well, dude, like what do you expect him to do? So I think this is a high waste of film. I acknowledge how good Butler is in points, but god damn it, I'll never watch this again, and I'm already irritated that Butler will probably get a Oscar nomination over someone who deserves it more. So
Hmm.
yeah, this is a high waste of film.
Okay. All right. That's how you feel feel about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
not a fan.
Yeah. That was Elvis. We got one last movie, and we're gonna be getting out of here. You gonna stick with me for Lightyear?
Yeah, sure, I saw it. Why not?
Okay. So Lightyear. This is the story about Buzz Lightyear. This is the movie that Andy saw when he was a kid that inspired him to buy the toy of Buzz Lightyear. So this movie is about the guy that the Buzz Lightyear toy that you see in the Toy Story movies is based on. Try explaining that to somebody when they check out this movie.
Right.
And so here you don't have Tim Allen returning as Buzz Lightyear character. You have Chris Evans, who's the real life guy, and this is all about him trying to help a team of people get off a marooned planet here that they've been spending years and years on. Um, and this is a sci-fi film as well. And I was kind of a little bit interested. I mean, obviously this movie is Pixar. How often does Pixar miss when it comes to their movies? And then also that when it comes to the Toy Story movies, I have enjoyed all of them. What about you?
Same.
You've enjoyed
Same.
all?
So yeah, it's more of a matter of which one you like least, and like I thought four was shockingly great. Like it was an honorable mention that year. Key and Peele added a lot to it. That gag of them scaring people, I thought was the funniest goddamn thing when they would just pop out from the shadows and shit. I thought that was really great. And then bringing Bo Peep back, that really worked for me. Um,
Yeah, they
but the
upgraded Bo
movies,
Peep. Bo Peep was fine as hell in that movie. They
I
upgraded.
know I was like, oh
Uh,
hello, but but I think all four films work. I don't think I'm taking a leap by saying this is the worst of the Toy Story films, but like this isn't like, how do I put this? This isn't like Good Dinosaur where I just went, did I watch that? Like there was enough in this I went, oh, I was like, okay, I'm gonna remember this like 6 months from now. It's just not as like the Toy Story IP being attached to this is like the worst thing for it because you have those high expectations of this is a Toy Story movie, which it technically is, and it just never reaches the height of even the quote worst unquote Toy Story movie.
Which
But I
is
wasn't
considered
like,
the worst one? The third one?
oh, maybe the fourth one,
Hmm.
probably the fourth one.
Okay.
But but at the same time, I was watching like, I'm still having fun with this. It's just not. We need to hold Pixar to a higher standard. Like when
Hmm.
you're Pixar, you need to be held to a higher standard. It's only fair. And this is kind of like this doesn't sound so fucked, but this is like the best version of the good dinosaur that you could possibly make. It's it's not like it's fine, but it's not something that you need to, show your kids necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's alright.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just agree with you. Like I said, it's alright. It's just meh.
Yeah.
It's fine. It
Yeah.
doesn't reach the heights as the Toy Story movies. The Toy Story movies, which Pixar, I mean, they did 4 movies, all of which are very very good in the Toy Story
Yep.
franchise, and with this one, I think there were a lot of high expectations coming into it. Of obviously of the studio behind it, and it connected to these Toy Story movies, which I think that was also a detriment to it. Like it trying to be connective, like this was the movie that Andy saw when he was a kid, and all this other stuff. Like I think that was just what I mean, trying to connect it and all those things. I think was pointless. But when it comes to I like some of the cool sci-fi elements here that they do. Like when I was
Same.
mentioning when we talk about the trailers. I can't remember the last time I've seen a sci-fi animated film like in recent years.
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice that they did that. Chris Evans gives a good performance as Buzz Lightyear, gives a good voice performance here. And which is not easy to do because like when you saw Marvel's What If, it's not easy
Yeah.
to do. Like there was a lot of
Sebastian
backlash.
Stan, I love you, man, but
Yeah, that so
yeah.
I think he does kind of a good job here. He is kind of playing a similar character here as Buzz Lightyear as Captain America, where he's another guy that's out of time that has such a
Yeah.
strict sense of morality and you know what I mean because it's all about this guy. Buzz Lightyear is obsessed with doing the right thing. He's like, I messed up. I got to fix my mistake. I'm trying to get these people who it was kind of partial. It was my fault that we crashed and we're stuck here on this planet. I'm marooned here, and I got to make it right. I got to complete the mission. I got to fix the mission. That's interesting. I think that's an interesting
Yeah.
concept.
Agreed.
And but I think it's kind of hindered by bringing in these other kind of supporting cast members here because the thing is when he it's all about them trying to fix the hyperdrive and he's trying to constantly test it over and over again, but as he constantly tests it he goes a year into the future, so every time he comes back it's a year later. And so it's like all these people in his life that he's trying to correct and trying to save, they're dying as he's trying to save them, and that's kind of very kind of deep in a way almost, or interesting in a way, that concept. And but when he gets and then at one point he goes so far into the future where the people that he's trying to save are kind of not even there anymore, and he has to deal with, then it becomes Buzz Lightyear and the fuck up squad, of these kind of other people that kind of come there. One of them who is the only other character in this movie who has a kind of the only kind of arc other than Buzz in this movie, who's voiced by Kiki Palmer, who is the
Yeah,
granddaughter.
fine ass Kiki Palmer.
Yeah, who
Yeah.
Kiki Palmer has really been blowing up. I think these last couple of years, like in the stuff she's been in, she's been working a lot, very consistently.
Yeah. Hustlers. She's got Nope coming up. She did that movie Alice, which I really like. Like, yeah, no, she's
Yeah,
doing she's doing shit.
yeah. She was also in like Scream Queens. She was also in.
Oh,
Uh,
that's right. Yeah, she was in that.
Yeah, so I mean, her career's really been kind of popping off lately. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I like her. I like her voice performance here. She's the granddaughter of the Hawthorne that Buzz knew there, and
Alicia.
yeah, Alicia. And you see, like, every time he comes back, her life, she has a wife. Then he comes back again. She has a child. Then he comes back again. Now the child has graduated college or the academy or whatever. And like
Yeah.
that, I thought that was a really good moment. Like every time he kind of goes by, just that happens. And then as he's going by, she gets older and older and older. And you kind of see those things. And I thought that was kind of a good moment. And then
Same.
the character of Socks, who's like the robot cat. Socks was
God bless
kind
that
of
cat.
yeah. That Socks was kind of the MVP of this movie, really.
Oh,
I mean,
Socks is the best character in the movie, and that's kind of you could say that's an issue in a movie that's called Lightyear, because that there's a point where that cat almost gets killed, and I was like, you better save that fucking cat right now. Like, he's the only person I care about to make that alive. But yeah, sucks fucking rule. Like, the thing I think I could say about this movie is that this would be a very nice kind of like 101 to a kid about sci-fi. Like, you want to kind of gauge if you wanted to, like, like if a kid wants to watch, Close Encounters or Day of the Earth Stood Still or whatever, down the road. I think this is a good introduction of sci-fi for, like a kid who's like 8 or 9. Like, maybe you show them Twilight Zone after this, but I think this is actually a very good, you know, um, launching pad, potentially get a kid into sci-fi. The big, now I don't even want to say this is an issue, but it's something that I know that when I watched it, um, the whole twist with Zurg, that was something that I about 30 minutes in, I went, I have a feeling you're going to do this thing. And then when they do it, I went, oh, that's going to irritate some people. As soon as it happened, I went, oh, yeah, that's going to piss some people off. But I actually like the twist because it actually adds a little more gravitas to Buzz's journey in general. But,
Mm.
um, I but it's such a classic sci-fi thing too. So I was
Yeah.
like, yeah,
You
I
called it?
get why you would. Oh yeah, like I was
Okay.
sitting there like you're showing Zurg in shadow. Oh, you're probably gonna. Oh, yep, there it is. So, um, but I like the fact that Zurg that whole twist with Zurg ends up being a thing where it allows Buzz to reflect on his own journey, which is why it personally worked for me. As far as the other characters, I know we mentioned Kiki Palmer's Izzy. Taika Waititi, he's basically playing Taika Waititi. He's kind of like how Jason Mantzoukas plays Jason Mantzoukas and everything, but he's really great at playing Jason Mantzoukas.
Yeah.
Taika works here as a comedic relief, and there's this whole bit with the pin that you know exactly where it's going in the very end. Like, of course, they'll need the pin for something. And I laughed when in the way that they're like, "Oh, we need to use this pin." I was just like, "Oh my fucking god! Of course you do." Um, yeah, there's a lot of like, you know, if you've seen a sci-fi movie, you can definitely pick up the beats as far as where certain elements will go. But as far as to your point, the whole fact that Buzz is losing time by correcting this mistake, and he comes across this ragtag group of people that he needs to team up with. The fact that he's able to realize the importance of time and to go ahead and actually be okay with losing on occasion. I appreciate the way that the film deals with that. I appreciate the fact that the film doesn't come right out and say it, but Socks is there to really help Buzz's PTSD from fucking up so many times
Yeah.
and losing the people that he knows, which is like a really dark thing when you think about it. So the movie worked for me more than it doesn't. It's just it has a Lightyear name attached to it, and that's just something that fair or not, because we talked about it. This is coming from the Toy Story universe, and the fact that there is a Buzz Lightyear Star Command show, which was so good,
Oh, you
like
saw the show? I've
really
never seen
good.
the show before.
Yeah, the show is really great, actually. Like surprisingly so, and that is better than this too. And that's the other thing that it's like we have to have that conversation. Like fair is fair. So it's just not as good as that either. But this is still, I think, a worthy entry. It's just not gonna be. It's gonna be one of those movies where a couple years from now, we're gonna be like, oh yeah, Lightyear was a thing. Like,
Yeah.
which sucks because I'd actually like to see more of this, but um, it's a cool moment when he actually gets the actual proper suit. There's some very obvious sci-fi references, stuff from Aliens to Close Encounters. There
Yeah.
is a jump scare that got me so good in here. There's a point where this robot reaches through the ship and grabs Buzz and pulls him out. And dude, that shit got me so good. I was like, "Oh, son of a bitch!" like it was actually a really good jump scare. But I really like the third act. I really like the third act. I think it does well with tension. Um, and this is also like an hour 45 ish, so it doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
I think it hits a nice like spot as far as because not everything needs to be 2 hours. Like look, studios, not everything needs to be 2 hours.
Yeah.
But I think it works in a good space. Michael Giacchino, who's one of my favorite composers, he of course did the Batman score earlier this year. I think his score is excellent, and it really does lend to some great moments for Buzz and for the rest of the crew. Um, but yeah, I think this is a good movie. It's just not a great one.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, I agree with a lot of points you said. It's just fine. I mean, the movie looks good.
Yeah, it
Come
does.
come to be expected again with the studio we're working with, that we're
Yep.
dealing with here. It just when it comes to these other side characters, like you have, like you said, Taika Waititi. He's playing Taika Waititi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think he's
Yeah.
as annoying as he is maybe in something like Free Guy. But and Taika Waititi, he's a funny guy. I mean, he is. I do
Yeah.
like him. But in this, it's just like he's just there to fuck up shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they wrote the movie and they was like, oh damn, this movie's only like 60 minutes. We need to have it extended longer. Let's have his character fuck up some shit. I mean, that's all he's kind of there
Yeah.
for, and it's just be the one note. And then the same thing with the other character, who's Darby, who's the
Darby,
convict.
yeah.
It's just there.
Yeah.
The only thing with her is this. The only stuff is one note. She's a convict who can't touch guns and she likes to blow up stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of just one note stuff with the both of those characters, which kind of became annoying. I think it just would have been good if it was just a Buzz Lightyear and Socks movie. It would have been way better if it was just that.
Yeah, fair.
Honestly. And if they, I mean, you could have just also with this movie played it off as like, hey, it's maybe Andy, he's playing with his toys, and this is his own like little imagination movie that he's doing, or something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe you could have got by with that instead of trying to, make it like this is the real story of the guy that the toy is based on. It's like okay,
Yeah.
all right, but yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just okay. It's just whatever.
Yeah, it's alright.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I wouldn't rush to go see it again, or anything like that. But there's some decent elements in here, and that's just about it. So for me, I would give it. I think it's the definition of a stream it for me that you could probably watch on
Yeah.
Disney Plus, and okay,
I'd give it like a high stream it. It's something that I like. I'll watch it again when it does hit Disney Plus, but they're like visually, I will say. And again, I know we mentioned it's Pixar, like their visuals, like they should be up to snuff, but some of the conversations that Buzz has with Socks are like very, very human, and I was really sitting there going, "Wow, this is actually kind of hitting more for me than I thought it would." But at the same time, to your point, the side characters are there to be, one note, and that's really it. The Hawthorne's the only one that really gets some uh, development, but it's the classic. My parent was better than me. Like it's not a
yeah, I gotta
they're
live up
not
to my
covering new ground.
parents' legacy and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah, it's not covering new ground in that sense, but I do think that the last third really does add quite a bit of a emotional punch to it. I think visually in that last third, it really does up its game. And Socks, God bless that cat, but yeah, I think a high stream it, but it's nothing you need to rush out and see.
Yeah, yeah. Socks, yeah, Socks is great. Socks is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
Socks. Give me Sock Shorts. Sock Short, double S. Oh my God, Pixar, pay me. Boom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Socks, sure. Yeah, I'd see that. Yeah, I'd like to see it. Just adventures with Lightyear and Socks. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
So that was Lightyear. All right, we're gonna be getting out of here. I gotta find somebody to raid, and then we're gonna be heading out. Thank you, Hunter, for joining me, man.
No problem, man.
So I'm gonna rate Guns of the Helgast is his name. Helgast, Helghast. All one word there. He's playing God of War right now. Are you gonna get God of War Ragnarok?
Nice. So okay, I'm gonna be. Oh God, I have to say this on the mic. I have not played a God of War game yet.
Wow.
I know. That's the reaction I get. I own a PS4, so I have no fucking excuse. I just started playing Red Dead Redemption because I bought a couple of games on Steam sale, and so I was
Mm.
like, I'll buy Red Dead. I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2, and goddamn, that game is just wonderful. So I am gonna get God of War. I have PlayStation Plus, so I have it to download. So I'll play it before Ragnarok comes out. But
Mm.
um, the cinematic trailer I watched looks badass. I'm like, okay, like I'll I'll get it most likely. But
Yeah.
I also buy a lot of games, and just like gaming is such an investment at this point, especially if because I'm playing like a Mass Effect right now too. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, so it's kind of hard to get into a game, but I will get Ragnarok at some point.
Yeah, as you get older, it's hard, man. You know, trying to finish these
Yeah,
games,
man.
man. The busy, just it's like so you're just so tired. It's like, gosh, I can't do this. You
Right,
know,
it's like I gotta record or watch this shit, and then yeah, it's a thing.
yeah. I really want to get the God of War, like the collector's edition. That they're gonna actually have like Mjolnir, who's a part of like the collector's edition. I'm like,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
yeah, so like a life size kind of Mjolnir hand. I was like, I gotta get that. I wonder how much. It's probably gonna be pricey. Probably gonna be pretty
Oh,
pricey.
like you're looking at 300 easy.
Yeah,
Like
it's probably gonna be pretty pricey for
yeah,
that.
that's the easy 300. But
Yeah.
I get it the collector's editions though. Like I like having a physical representation of like the game that I get. So I
Yeah.
get people dropping their money
Actually,
on
there's
it.
no
Like,
disc included with like the with the collector's edition. I
are
think.
you serious?
Yeah, I think they said it was like no disc included. Yeah.
Oh, that's such a crock of shit. I hate how like okay, quick rant. I hate how studios do that shit. It's like we're gonna give you collector's edition, but not the fucking game. Like it's the season pass shit too that bothers me. It's like again to date myself. I remember you'd pay for a game and you'd get the whole fucking game. It wasn't this whole like, oh, you pay $60 now. Oh, but you need to pay us another $30 later to go ahead and get more content. It's like give me all the content because I paid 60 fucking dollars. Like
Yeah.
yeah, that's another reason I don't game as much anymore because I hate what the industry's become with that shit. It's
Yeah.
so much greed. It's absurd. But
Yeah.
thanks to EA, by the way.
Yeah, but it's just like the digital code that's gonna be there with the steel book and everything. Yeah. Did you get that popcorn bucket, the Mjolnir popcorn bucket with Thor Love and Thunder? Did you get?
No, so it's funny. I went and saw it in IMAX, so they didn't have them where I was at.
Oh, okay.
But apparently Cinemark did. I might go see Love and Thunder again before I go see Nope. So I might end up getting like a 10 or something there. But no, I didn't get anything yet.
Okay. I tried to get one, but it was already sold out by the time I got there. It was already sold out. There.
Nah, boo.
Yeah. I think that the hammer doesn't remove, does it, from the thing it's on? I don't think, right?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's just part of it. So
Yeah. That's still like a little cute little thing you can get, whatever. Which is kind of
yeah,
nice.
I like to get the theater cups for like the big movies. Not Jurassic World, but I like to keep the cups for like a lot of the big movies I see. So like
Yeah.
like if I see something like that, I'll grab it. But yeah, haven't been able to yet.
Yeah. All right, people. Like I said, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you, Hunter, for coming by, man. Much appreciated.
No problem.
Thank you, Ashley. Ashley Lynch also come by. Critic. Very great with her to come by. Matt, editor. I forgot to. I'm gonna put her links anyway. In the description below. Hunter, want to let people know what you're all about, man, and where they can find you.
Yeah. So I'll be doing a deep dive into Thor: Love and Thunder. That will be up Monday morning. I will have a review up for The Boys season 3 in the next couple weeks. I dug the hell out of season 3. There's a lot to talk about with season 3 and where it sets up season 4. And I will also have a full breakdown of Miss Marvel and where that could be setting up more Young Avengers stuff. I'm digging that show as well. But you can find me wherever you listen to podcasts, SoundCloud, Apple, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Samsung Podcasts. You can find me on Letterboxd at Black Shazam. I'm pretty active on there. And then you can find me on Twitter at jhunter Real Pineapple. That's REL Pineapple. And you can like The Real Pineapple on Facebook. And you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/jhunter Real Pineapple. So, yeah, follow me.
Yeah. Are you gonna start streaming on Twitch?
I need to, man. Like it's so weird how I'm just so easy. Like it's so much fun to come on here, but then I think about doing it by myself, and I'm like, eh. So I haven't figured out how I want to approach the channel yet. But at some point, I will be streaming on there.
Awesome, awesome. I'll be there when you start streaming on Twitch. All
Yeah, too
right.
bad.
The Afternoon Tune. You can find us everywhere on all the social medias: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the Afternoon Tune. You can check us out on all wherever you listen to podcasts: Apple, Spotify. Hey, if you're on those platforms, make sure to leave a good 5-star review. Helps boost up the podcast. Hey, we're on YouTube, youtube.com, The Afternoon Tune. Hey, if you're there, hey, like, comment, subscribe, do all that good YouTube shit. You already know what to do. Hey, we're streaming on Twitch, typically every Friday, every Saturday. Typically at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll be streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Afternoon Tune. You'll find us there streaming. We're going to be back to you guys Friday. We're going to be doing the finale for Miss Marvel. That's coming up there, so we're going to be discussing that. Do you know what movie's coming out next week? I was trying to think. I couldn't. I was trying to think.
Oh, I think where the Craw there's really not. I think it's like only where the Crawford that Crawford movie. I think the Gray Man is playing.
Oh, yes.
Next.
Yeah, the Netflix movie.
I think it's the
yeah
the Netflix movie.
July
Yeah,
15th.
so it's the Gray Man, where the Crawdads sing, and Paws of Fury: The Legend of Hank. That's what's coming out next.
That movie with Samuel Jackson and Michael Cera.
Yeah, which I'm weirdly excited for, but I might go see the Gray Man because I'm just kind of curious to see it on the big screen. But
yeah,
yeah, there's really nothing. So
yeah, so we're gonna do the Gray Man coming Friday, Saturday. I don't know what we're gonna do yet for the show. Might do a review of Barry. Might check that out. Might do a review of Barry.
There you go.
If I have the time. And also Stranger Things. I didn't get a chance to do that this today, like I was supposed to, like I was planning to. But I'll come back Friday and do that part 2 of Stranger Things, season 4. All right, I'm going to be rating Guns of Hellgast. He's playing right now, playing God of War right now. So, yeah, thank you, Hunter, for showing up. Thank you, everybody, for coming by, stopping by, watching. Very much appreciated. Love always having Hunter on. He's a great guest. Thank you for that comic knowledge that you brought for Thor Love and Thunder,
no problem.
man. All right, people. Hey, stay tuned.